Chapter 1464. Jing Wei's spirit was about to collapse. Looking at Yi Qinghan's body crashing into the waves, he did not feel any joy in his heart, only regret. He should not have searched for that memory. Yi Qinghan had preserved it so well, he definitely did not want to remember it. Since he did not want to remember it, it must be because of the pain in his heart. You are in pain, which means you love her. But why did you give up on my mother back then? My mother chose to self-destruct for you, not willing to expose your identity, but what did you do? Jing Wei covered his face and cried bitterly. He could not bear to have such a father who was so afraid of death that he even gave up on his true love and chose to run away. Humiliation. Full of humiliation. From the beginning to the end, Jing Wei thought that his father was an indomitable man. Even before, when he looked at Yi Qinghan, he felt that he was worthy of being his father. But now, he did not think so. He felt that Yi Qinghan was a useless man who made him feel disgusted. My father is not a useless man like you. Definitely not. Jing Wei did not want to look at Yi Qinghan, who had sunk to the bottom of the sea. He sat at the door dispiritedly, his eyes filled with despair. He is not a useless man. Why don't you think of it from another angle? He had no choice but to leave in order to save your life? At this time, a deep voice came from outside the sky Dove Mountain. It seemed to come from the top of the sky, but also from the bottom of the sea. It also seemed to be everywhere. The voice was ethereal, causing people to be shocked. Jing Wei's pupils shrank. He raised his head to look at the horizon, but he could not find the location of the other party. He could not help but be shocked. Who are you? How do you know that he ran away in order to save me, and not to drag out an ignoble existence? Jing Wei angrily asked. Because I am Swanpadian. There is nothing in this world that I cannot predict. That voice sounded again. It was deep and hoarse, slow and orderly. It was very kind, just like a father's, making people unable to feel any ill will. Swanpadian. I seem to remember that you looked for him. Looked for father. Jing Wei frowned and pondered for a long time before he suddenly realized. During the Great Desolate Era, Swanpadian had indeed sought out Yi Qinghan, but no one knew the contents of their conversation. Yi Qinghan's memories were also gone, as if they had been erased. Ah, little girl, I've seen your past life. You're indeed Bai Zai's descendant. You're so lucky that you can be reborn. At this moment, a faint afterimage appeared outside the sky Dove Mountain. It gradually solidified, and a sage-like old man appeared. He held a feather fan in his hand, and his white clothes fluttered like snow. He seemed to be right in front of them, but it also seemed like he was in another space-time. Swanpadian, Xiaoye's master, didn't seem like a bad person. On the contrary, he had an immortal aura that made people feel comfortable. Swanpadian smiled and persuaded, Child, what was your father's cultivation base back then? Even if I bring you along and fight to the death, it will only end with the death of your entire family. Could it be that you want your father to give up his own life and yours for the sake of so-called dignity? On the contrary, if I were him, I would also give up on your mother's life. At least I would grow up with you, and there would still be hope for revenge, right? The elite guard's body trembled, and there was a hint of understanding in his eyes. Swanpadian was still smiling, but there was a hidden meaning behind his smile that made people unable to understand it. Your mother is Bai Zai, the embodiment of fate. She can't die in one go because she still carries Bai Zai's inheritance. In fact, she had reincarnated once, and she reincarnated with great love. For your father, she died once again. Unfortunately, your father didn't know, and he missed Bai Zai once again. I hope that when he wakes up this time, he can understand that Bai Zai's love has transcended time and space. Sooner or later, she will come to find him again. However, if she fails again, Bai Zai's fate will dissipate, and she will disappear forever, never to appear again. Swanpadian smiled as if the one who died wasn't Bai Zai, who controlled the fate of the world, but an ant. My mother reincarnated, and died again. Who is it? The elite guard quickly rushed into the sea and pulled Yi Qinghan up from the bottom of the sea. Although this kick was filled with anger, it didn't use any divine power. Therefore, Yi Qinghan's injuries didn't worsen by much. Boom! The elite guard once again entered Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness and found a few women who died for Yi Qinghan. Bai Shaoxing left the deepest impression on him. That burning love was unforgettable, and Yi Qinghan's yearning for her was imprinted in his heart. Is it her? Is she the reincarnation of my mother? She only has one chance left to reincarnate. The elite guard was terrified. He didn't want to lose his mother, so he quickly looked at Swanpodian and begged, "Senior, you are Swanpodian. Then please tell me, when will my mother reincarnate next time? Where will she reincarnate?" "Haha, heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. If you want to know, then ask your father to come to me and agree to my conditions. I will naturally use my life force to repay him. Otherwise, he will still miss the next reincarnation." Swanpodian laughed and left. His speed was so fast that even the elite guard couldn't detect his movements. He only saw his afterimage slowly disappearing. Tell him, I want to know, is his dream more important, or the woman who loves him deeply more important? Choose one of the two. Maybe now I can add another bargaining chip. His dream, his love, and his beloved daughter. I believe he will choose you all. The voice was vast and mighty. Sky Dove Mountain became quiet again. Even the birds chirping and the roaring of the sea disappeared. The ocean of nothingness was dead silent, making people's hair stand on end. Yi Qinghan was still unconscious. The tears at the corner of his eyes were mixed with the sea water. It was difficult to distinguish them. "Father, did you really take me away just to save my life like he said?" she asked. "Father, did you really take me away to save my life? You really didn't choose to leave my mother because you were afraid of death?" The elite guard wanted to cry but had no tears. He didn't know how to face his father. Looking at the tears at the corner of his eyes, his heart almost collapsed. "Father, how can I save you?" The elite guard looked up at the sky and sighed, roaring in despair. "What did Swanpodian ask you to promise him? What did he ask you to give up?" The elite guard's head was full of question marks. However, the problem in front of him was even bigger. "Damn Swanpodian, aren't you able to predict anything? Why don't you tell me how to save my father?" The elite guard angrily said. "Because you didn't respect this old man, I punished you to think of a way yourself." Swanpodian's voice carried a faint smile, as if he didn't care about the elite guard's curses. The elite guard's hair stood on end. He felt that Swanpodian was everywhere. He couldn't help but angrily look up at the sky and coldly said, "Coward! Come out if you have the ability." Like father, like son. Your father also scolded me like this in the past. In the end he died. Even the Great Desolation Palace was destroyed. If you don't respect me, you have to pay the price. Swanpodian lightly warned. The elite guard was helpless. He could only place Yi Qinghan in the small wooden hut and think of a way himself. Chapter 1465. Even though Podian had disappeared, he still seemed to be there. If Yi Qinghan had awakened, he might have been able to find some clues. Unfortunately, Jing Wei's spiritual energy hadn't reached the realm of a sector lord, so he could only allow him to spy on him. Yi Qinghan was lying on the bed. The water on his body dripped onto the wooden planks, soaking the floor. However, the Yuling robe cleaned the dirty water by itself. Jing Wei stared at Yi Qinghan for a long time. He wanted to know why he left Bai Zhe Saintis without hesitation. He didn't seem to love her that much. "I must find out the truth. I will save your life this time. I will give my mother an explanation." Jing Wei's eyes lit up. He clenched his fists, took a deep breath and left. The ocean race continent was devastated. Corpses and broken limbs were everywhere. None of them were intact. They were all shattered by the terrifying waves. The sea had just receded. If it weren't for the gathering of experts, even the inner city would have been submerged. Su Songlong was furious. He smashed the stone tablet outside the inner city and shouted, "Did you find out who attacked the inner sea region?" The corners of Yao Guang's mouth twitched as he bowed humbly. In fact, he did not even need to check to know. After thinking for a moment, he said in a low voice, "Patriarch, the powerhouses of the 9 great clans were chasing after Mr. Yi. I reckon that Mr. Yi exploded the saturated primordial holy stone and affected this place. The powerhouses of the 9 great clans were all killed or injured. Only the deep-sea giant shark survived, but there's no hope anymore. His soul has been scattered, and only half of his body is left. Even if he survives, he'll be crippled. Find him. If he is alive, I want to see him. If he is dead, I want to see his corpse. You and I both know who he is. Only he knows how many death warriors he has in the 9 worlds. If he dies here, the ocean race continent may not have a good ending. Su Songlong looked coldly at Yao Guang and said in a low voice. Yao Guang's body trembled. He could guess Yi Qinghan's identity from Yao Tian. Now, he was more certain. If he really died here, it would be fine if there were no death warriors in the Great Wasteland domain. However, if there were, they could definitely overturn the Void Ocean and destroy the ocean race continent. I'll go look for it now. Yao Guang smiled bitterly. Did the 9 great oceanic clans get kicked in the head by donkeys? Of all the people to provoke, why provoke him? You're always causing trouble for me. This time, you've offended the Realm Lord. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan has lost most of his cultivation. Otherwise, that palm strike would have wiped out the entire oceanic continent. The Void Dragon sighed and turned to leave. The oceanic race continent was in a mess. The 9 great clans had suffered great losses this time. Although only a few of their clans had died, their cultivation wasn't bad. They were all King Realm experts. The 10 great clans didn't have many King Realm experts. After accumulating for so many years, the 9 great clans' experts were furious. They wanted to find Yi Qinghan. There were countless experts around the oceanic race continent. There were countless large and small sea demons. They were cruising the surface of the sea, trying to find Yi Qinghan's location. However, Yi Qinghan was currently at the Sky Dove Mountain. That place wasn't part of the 10 great oceanic clans' territory. That place was Jing Wei's territory. Although she wasn't part of the 10 great oceanic clans, she had a terrifying cultivation. Others called her a lunatic, and the 10 great oceanic clans didn't want to provoke her. Therefore, there weren't any of the 10 great oceanic clans within 1,000 miles of the Sky Dove Mountain. Jing Wei quietly appeared on the oceanic race continent. Her figure fluttered, appearing and disappearing. A second ago, she was at the outskirts of the oceanic race continent. In the next second, she appeared in the inner city. Her speed was so fast that it was impossible to trace her. Her strength was also increasing day by day. When Yi Qinghan first arrived, he gave her a few pointers. In addition, she had Yi Qinghan and Bai Zai's bloodline. It was hard for her not to improve. Swish. Jing Wei appeared outside Dragon Mountain. She didn't force her way in. Instead, she cupped her fists and bowed. Sky Dove Mountain's elite guard is here to pay a visit to Senior Sea Dragon God. Please show yourself. Azure Void Dragon was in a bad mood. As soon as he arrived at Dragon Mountain, he heard Jing Wei's voice. He cursed, "Why is this lunatic here? She didn't even come when I invited her. Why is she here now? Go, ask her what she wants." Azure Void Dragon waved his hand and said to a Sea Dragon expert. The Sea Dragon expert quickly left. However, he soon returned with no answer. Azure Void Dragon didn't want to offend a Peak King Realm expert. He could only come personally. Seeing Jing Wei's strength surpassing his own, he couldn't help but be shocked. Taoist Jing Wei, your cultivation? Azure Void Dragon stared at Jing Wei. He didn't expect that his countless years of bitter cultivation couldn't compare to Jing Wei's tens of thousands of years of bitter cultivation. It's just an opportunity. It's not worth mentioning. Today, I came to ask Senior for a favor. Please give me 3 rank 12 dragon immortal grasses. I will definitely repay you in the future. Jing Wei bowed and said, Rank 12 dragon immortal grasses? This is used to save lives. It can even save a person who has half a foot in hell. Who do you want to save by yourself? Azure Void Dragon frowned and asked, Senior, don't ask what you don't know. Junior came this time in hopes of getting the dragon immortal grasses. If Senior agrees, then that's the best. I will repay you in the future, Jing Wei said in a deep voice. Azure Void Dragon looked at Jing Wei's firm eyes. He was curious about who she wanted to save. He had some doubts and asked, What if I don't agree? Then I will rob you. Jing Wei replied without hesitation. You won't be able to. It's not like no one in my Sea Dragon clan has come to rob us in the past. Even the realm lords of the 7 realms came to exchange treasures for rank 12 dragon immortal grasses. They didn't dare to rob us, let alone you. Azure Void Dragon faintly reminded. Jing Wei frowned and clenched her fist as she stared at Azure Void Dragon. Your favor isn't worth 3 rank 12 dragon immortal grasses. Unless you tell me who you want to save? Is it Mr. Yi? Azure Void Dragon asked in a deep voice. Jing Wei couldn't guess what Azure Void Dragon was thinking. Naturally, she didn't want to take the risk. Since Azure Void Dragon was suspicious, Yi Qinghan wouldn't be safe in Sky Dove Mountain. She turned around and was about to leave. Hold on. Take these 3 rank 12 dragon immortal grasses first. If you don't have enough, then come back. If you want to save Mr. Yi, then please take good care of him. Don't let the 9 great oceanic clans succeed. Mr. Yi cannot die in the void ocean. At least, he cannot die in my sea dragon weave. Azure Void Dragon said in a deep voice. Shwa. 3 dragon immortal grasses appeared in Azure Void Dragon's hand. He slowly moved them towards Jing Wei. Jing Wei was overjoyed. It seemed that Azure Void Dragon didn't have any evil intentions. She reached out and grabbed the dragon immortal grasses. After Mr. Yi consumes the dragon immortal grasses, quickly take him away from Sky Dove Mountain. The further the better. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that the 9 great oceanic clans won't find you. I can't guarantee that they won't go crazy. Azure Void Dragon reminded. Thank you, Senior, for reminding me. Jing Wei cupped her fists and left. Her figure flashed as she left the inner city. At this moment, the search team of the 9 great oceanic clans had already approached Sky Dove Mountain. Although Jing Wei's crazy reputation was very strong, he couldn't stop the 9 great oceanic clans' experts. First, young sea beasts appeared near Sky Dove Mountain. Then, powerful sea beasts approached Sky Dove Mountain. Chapter 1466. There were at least 4 king-level experts among the 9 great oceanic races that were quietly approaching the Sky Dove Mountain. The clans behind them didn't dare to offend the elite guard openly. At this moment, they were traveling alone. If they were caught, they would at most say that they had gone to the wrong place. They had been searching outside for a long time, but they couldn't find any trace of Yi Qinghan. However, since the elite guard hadn't appeared yet, they became bolder and bolder, placing their attention on the interior of the Sky Dove Mountain. The Bai, the Deep Sea Shark, the Broken Sea Race, and the Cheongqi race had been wandering around the Sky Dove Mountain for a long time, but they didn't dare to enter the mountain. A deep sea shark had transformed into a muscular man and was hiding at the foot of the Sky Dove Mountain. He was looking at the towering trees soaring into the sky. The surrounding weeds and brambles looked as if they had been rolled over by giant beasts. Green vines were hanging down from the thick tree trunks. The majestic Sky Dove Mountain was like a primordial giant beast that was hiding there. No one dared to act recklessly. Although the deep sea shark was arrogant, he wasn't arrogant enough to provoke the elite guard. He was struggling, wanting to enter the mountain but not daring to. Right at this moment, the elite guard rushed over from afar. He glanced around and stared at the 4 oceanic beasts. He said coldly, "You dare to enter my training grounds? You are courting death." "My lord, please calm down. This lowly one didn't do it on purpose." The deep sea shark quickly lowered his head to show his weakness. Scram. "The next time you dare to approach the Sky Dove Mountain, no matter which oceanic race you are from, I will still kill you." The elite guard was imposing without being angry. He was like an empress with the aura of the void ocean. Once the deep sea shark heard this, he dived into the deep sea and fled for his life. He didn't even say a word to the elite guard because he was afraid that this lunatic wouldn't give him any face. If that happened, even the patriarch wouldn't be able to avenge him. The other oceanic race didn't dare to say anything more. They turned and fled, and the Sky Dove Mountain fell into a deathly silence. The elite guard's figure moved and appeared at the waist of the tallest mountain. The small wooden house appeared in front of him. Yi Qinghan was still unconscious, and there wasn't any fluctuation in his soul spirit. The explosion of a saturated origins sacred stone was too powerful. Yi Qinghan's face didn't have any color, as if he had been dead for tens of thousands of years. The elite guard looked at Yi Qinghan and felt an indescribable pain in his heart. Perhaps this was the power of the bloodline. I hope Song Patin is right. Otherwise, I really can't face you. The elite guard muttered as he crushed the level 12 dragon celestial grass into juice and dripped it all into Yi Qinghan's mouth. The dragon celestial grass was a mixture of powerful vitality and dragon essence. Once the terrifying energy entered the mouth, it would turn into vitality that flowed through the limbs and bones. Most of the vitality would gather in the sea of consciousness, helping to heal the damage to the soul. With the help of the dragon celestial grass, Jing Wei's soul, which was on the verge of being obliterated, was gradually recovering. It was so fast that Jing Wei was excited, but he couldn't help but worry that the people of the 9 great sea clans would suspect this place. That night, the king-level deep-sea giant shark appeared at the gathering place of the giant sharks. This was a dark deep sea with a clear blue sky. It looked calm and tranquil, but once the deep-sea giant shark went berserk, there would be no life in the vicinity. The king-level deep-sea giant shark hurriedly returned to the gathering place. Within the territory of the patriarch, there was a small island that was surrounded by reefs. The patriarch of the deep-sea giant shark, Sha Kuang, transformed into a middle-aged man. His face was cold and emotionless. His eyes were red and his face was full of muscles. He looked extremely bloodthirsty and made people tremble in fear. Sha Kuang looked at the giant shark and spoke with an extremely ear-piercing voice. "Have you found that human?" Replying, "Patriarch, we haven't found him." The giant shark replied in fear. "Trash, what's the use of having you?" Swish. Sha Kuang actually grabbed the giant shark and opened his bloody mouth, wanting to devour him. "Patriarch, please spare me." This lowly one suspects that he was saved by the elite guard of the Sky Dove Mountain. The giant shark hurriedly begged for mercy. He was treating a dead horse as a living horse. If he was really saved by the elite guard, he could at least preserve his life. Even if he wasn't, he could still find an opportunity to escape. "Elite guard? What proof do you have?" Sha Kuang asked coldly. Today, this lowly one entered the foot of the Sky Dove Mountain and was coincidentally met by the elite guard. However, she only gave me a warning and didn't even make a move. She must have some misgivings. Otherwise, with her character, she would definitely teach this lowly one a lesson. Even if she didn't kill me, she would return with injuries. However, she didn't. The giant shark explained in fear. When Sha Kuang heard this, he felt that it made sense. However, he didn't have full confidence that he could win against the elite guard. Therefore, he couldn't help but hesitate. If we joined forces with the other sea races to attack the Sky Dove Mountain, wouldn't we offend this lunatic if the elite guard didn't save him? A barefooted person isn't afraid of wearing shoes. She's alone, so it wouldn't be good to offend her. Sha Kuang frowned and didn't know what to do. In fact, deep in his heart, Sha Kuang still wasn't confident. He didn't think that he was a match for the elite guard. Otherwise, why would he be so cautious? The giant shark didn't dare to speak in front of Sha Kuang. His entire body was trembling. He was afraid that Sha Kuang would be angered and swallow him whole. Sha Kuang pondered for a long time and decided to explore the Sky Dove Mountain. After all, he had offended Yi Qinghan and Yi Qinghan still had the Dragon Balls that he urgently needed. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't let Yi Qinghan live. Go and inform the other sea race patriarchs. We will join forces to suppress the elite guard. Sha Kuang coldly said. After receiving the order, the giant shark didn't even consider it. He turned and ran as if Sha Kuang was a demon. At this moment, it was already late at night. Starlight filled the sky and the Sky Dove Mountain was shrouded in clouds. It was like a fairyland. The elite guard in the small wooden house paced back and forth. Looking at Yi Qinghan's condition, he wasn't suitable for a long journey. Once he left the Sky Dove Mountain and was chased by others, the bumpy journey would definitely worsen his injuries. It might even exhaust the efficacy of the dragon immortal grass. As the pressure grew stronger, the elite guard became more and more restless. Perhaps it was because of the Bai Zhe bloodline and its deep destiny that she had the ability to foresee danger. In the end, she gritted her teeth and transformed into an elite guard divine bird. She placed Yi Qinghan on her back and quickly left the Sky Dove Mountain under the cover of the night and fog. The small elite guard bird shuttled through the sea at an extremely fast speed. In a few breaths, it had left the territorial waters of the Sky Dove Mountain. Not long after the elite guard left with Yi Qinghan, the entire Sky Dove Mountain was surrounded. Sha Kuang and several other terrifying peak experts arrived at the Sky Dove Mountain. They coldly looked at the mountain peak, but their divine sense couldn't penetrate the barrier outside the wooden house. Elite guard, this old man has personally come to pay a visit. Shouldn't you come out to welcome me? Sha Kuang coldly said. His voice reverberated within the Sky Dove Mountain, but there was no response. The surroundings were deathly silent. Before the various experts got a definite answer, they didn't want to offend the elite guard. Therefore, they didn't forcefully attack. However, they didn't know that the Sky Dove Mountain was already empty. The elite guard had already fled with Yi Qinghan. After a long time, Sha Kuang lost his patience. He waved his hand and coldly said, "You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Go." Many sea beasts slowly ascended. Under Sha Kuang's tyranny, the shrimp soldiers and crab generals had no choice but to go up the mountain to test the waters. Chapter 1467. The shrimp soldiers and crab generals slowly arrived at the small wooden house. The barrier was soft and sparkling, but there was no resistance at all. The small sea monsters actually passed through the barrier. There was no one in the wooden house, but a sea snake with a keen sense of smell detected the aura of another person besides the elite guard. It immediately rushed down the mountain in pleasant surprise. When Sha Kuang heard the sea snake's report, a cold light flashed in his eyes. "Elite guard, it really is you." Sha Kuang clenched his large iron fist and said coldly, "Seal off the sea region and search for the elite guard. If there is any news, report it immediately." The experts of the Deep Sea Shark clan moved out and swam in all directions, mobilizing the surrounding clans. The Sea Dragon clan's territory was instantly mobilized. The Cheongchi clan, the Tao clan, the 9 clans worked together to seal off the Sea Dragon clan's territory. The Sea Dragon clan could not say anything, as they could not contend against the 9 clans at the same time. The elite guard carried Yi Qinghan on her back and fled frantically. However, the Sea Dragon clan's territory was vast. After flying for an entire night, the vast ocean stretched as far as the eye could see. What? A small sea fish jumped into the sky and leaped over 10 meters before jumping back into the sea and quickly leaving. The elite guard glanced at the small fish but did not kill it. As long as they were in the Sea Dragon clan's territory, no matter how many they killed, they would not be able to escape the eyes of the 10 clans. There were countless sea monsters, and killing them would only be a waste of time. Thus, she continued to carry Yi Qinghan. If they wanted to be safe, they would have to leave the Sea Dragon clan's territory. Only then could they escape the eyes of the 10 clans. The elite guard had been galloping for an entire night. Her speed was much faster than an ordinary perfect expert, but now that she was carrying Yi Qinghan on her back, her speed and endurance were severely affected. She was already somewhat exhausted. Yi Qinghan lay on the elite guard's back, his brows tightly knitted together. His body was jolting, and the pain of his soul being torn apart made his expression somewhat sinister. His large hand grabbed the elite guard's wings, nearly tearing them apart. "I want to wake up." In the dark chaos, Yi Qinghan roared. His desire to live made him unwilling to remain in the chaos. His thoughts gradually became active, and he was no longer a person without consciousness. Time slowly passed. Suddenly, Yi Qinghan felt that his body had become much more stable, and his soul was no longer in intense pain. Yi Qinghan's complexion looked slightly better. At this moment, the elite guard stopped on a small island. It was desolate and uninhabited with only a few big trees. The beach was flat, and occasionally, there would be sea rats scuttling by, and even if I escape father and the others. The elite guard looked at Yi Qinghan as he crushed the last stalk of dragon celestial grass into juice and dripped it into Yi Qinghan's mouth. The essence of the dragon immortal grass flowed through Yi Qinghan's limbs and bones. Most of its energy flowed into his knowledge sea, turning into specks of golden light that comforted and nourished Yi Qinghan's soul. At this moment, Emperor Yi seemed to feel that Yi Qinghan was heavily injured, but he couldn't control the Yinshi's pot no matter how hard he tried. He couldn't appear outside, and couldn't help Yi Qinghan at all. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to do his best to repair his soul. He could already move his fingers slightly, and his body was gradually regaining control. Time flew by, and it was noon. The elite guard sat on a rock on the beach and rested for half a day to recover some of his strength. Just as he was about to leave with Yi Qinghan, he suddenly saw the ocean of nothingness in the periphery roar again. Oh no, their speed is too fast. They actually caught up. The elite guard couldn't care too much. He transformed into the elite guard divine bird again and rushed towards the horizon with Yi Qinghan. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had begun to open his eyes. He looked at the white clouds in the sky rapidly retreating. He knew that the elite guard had brought him away, but he couldn't say anything. His eyes were filled with gratification and joy, but there was also some sadness because the elite guard had awakened a secret that he didn't want to remember. Bise Saintus. Yi Qinghan's body moved slightly, and he raised his head slightly. He looked at the 9 marine race experts rushing over from behind, and the joy in his eyes turned into anger. If not for the fact that he couldn't use his strength, his anger would have been enough to destroy those marine race experts. The first batch of marine race experts weren't great perfection stage experts. They were only King Realm experts. They were forcefully sent over as cannon fodder to delay the elite guard. Elite guard, fly upwards. The sea isn't safe. Yi Qinghan's voice was extremely tired, like an ordinary person who hadn't slept for a few days. It was very hoarse. The elite guard heard and immediately said happily, "You are awake. Can you still fly?" Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. It was difficult to even walk now, let alone fly. Yi Qinghan whispered, "I can't fly. I need at least a few months to recover to my peak. However, I can still fight in 3 to 5 days. Help me delay for 3 to 5 days, and I will think of a way." At that moment, Yi Qinghan still couldn't use his Qiankuan ring, and he couldn't use his pseudo-world treasure or world treasure. His soul spirit was too weak, and the slightest bit of strength would cause his condensed soul spirit to collapse. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to take the risk. He would rather rest for half a day. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and rested for half a day. The elite guard didn't disturb him, and he only cared about flying upwards. What? A huge octopus rushed up from the bottom of the sea. Its claws shot up into the sky and grabbed at the elite guard. It was too sudden, and the elite guard almost couldn't react in time. Whoosh! The elite guard didn't kill the octopus. It was useless to kill it, and it would be better to run away. Therefore, he just slanted upwards and dodged the octopus attack. At night, Yi Qinghan suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were like stars, deep and vast. It was as if there was a universe hidden in his eyes. Shwa! A level 12 dragon celestial grass appeared in his hand from his Qiankuan ring. Hundreds of world stones appeared, and even a few origin sacred stones appeared. They were all high-grade, but they were suitable for his current state. Hua! The dragon celestial grass was sucked into his mouth, and its essence was devoured. His soul spirit took the initiative to guide the essence, and the life essence wasn't wasted. The medicinal efficacy of this dragon celestial grass was at least the medicinal efficacy of the previous 3 dragon celestial grass. It quickly healed his severely damaged soul spirit. The power of the world and the primordial energy roared out from the world stones and origin sacred stones. They intertwined to form an 8 trigrams pattern and rushed into his body crazily. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and didn't say anything. However, deep in his heart, he was happy. The recovery speed was faster than he thought. If he didn't care about the cost, he could recover to his peak in 3 to 5 days. He might even be stronger than before. The death calamity allowed him to think through a lot at the last moment. He had comprehended the true meaning of the blade. He felt that this blade could sever the world. If it was combined with the strength of a realm master, he might be able to break open the 9 worlds. What? Yi Qinghan sat up slowly and looked at the twinkling stars in the starry sky. The fog in the distance blocked his vision, and his eyes condensed into a line. Xian changed direction. There seems to be danger ahead. Yi Qinghan's heart was thumping. He seemed to have a premonition, and he quickly reminded the guard. The guard was stunned. It seemed that Yi Qinghan wasn't talking to him. Isn't it a little too late to change direction now? This is the bewildering fog sea. There's no way out. A cold voice resounded through the clouds. The originally calm sea suddenly surged with waves, as if a monstrous giant beast was about to appear. Chapter 1468. Fog Sea. The elite guard's pupils shrunk as he quickly took a step back. However, the area behind him had also turned into fog that was spinning at high speed. The river of stars was no longer there, and it had turned into a maze. The cold voice reverberated in all directions, and it was impossible to tell where it came from. Xian, put me down. Yi Qinghan said seriously. The elite guard landed on the surface of the sea and transformed into a human. He turned his head and asked worriedly, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed as he looked around, especially at the bottom of the sea. His eyes were filled with worry. The elite guard then put Yi Qinghan down. A crescent blade appeared in his hand. It looked very delicate, but it radiated cold light and was incomparably sharp. "We accidentally intruded into this place. We have no evil intentions. Please let us through," the elite guard said in a deep voice. "No one who enters this place can leave alive. You will become this king's food and become a part of this king to strengthen my power." The cold voice sounded again. The elite guard was somewhat angry. If not for the fact that he was worried that the aftermath of the battle would hurt Yi Qinghan, he would have already made his move. He wanted to negotiate but was stopped by Yi Qinghan. It was so dark that one couldn't see their fingers. The fog could even prevent divine senses from probing beyond 3 meters. It was as if they were in chaos and couldn't see anything. Yi Qinghan and the elite guard had their backs against each other. Their eyes were filled with vigilance. However, Yi Qinghan was staring into the depths and whispered, "Are you the sky dog?" In a split second, the fog spun faster. The elite guard and Yi Qinghan couldn't see each other anymore and could only hold hands to maintain contact. "Who are you? You actually know this king's true form." The voice became cold and vigilant. To be able to know his true form, it must be a powerful creature that existed in the same era. Even if it wasn't a heavenly beast, it was close to the heavenly beast realm. Yi Qinghan had been to the void ocean before. In the past, he and the brilliant sky sea dragon king had wandered the ocean for a long time. They had been to many places and had even left the territory of the sea dragons to reach the fog sea. Naturally, he knew what kind of creatures lived here. The sky-filling sea hound was a type of dog. They called themselves the Heavenly Dog Clan, but other clans called them the Sea Hounds. They could control the fog and cover the sky. They lived up to their name of sky-filling sea hound. As long as one fell into the sea of fog, it would be very difficult to escape from the control of the sky-filling sea hound. Yi Qinghan was unable to unleash his spiritual power to its peak, but he was still able to control everything within a radius of 10 meters. The sea dog was not in the vicinity, and it seemed to be on high alert. This creature was too suspicious, and its strength was not that exaggerated. However, it was too fast and its teeth were sharp. Just based on the sharpness of its teeth, it was comparable to a world treasure. Of course, the prerequisite was that the sea dog had reached the king level. Most importantly, the sea dog could control the fog and make people lose their sense of direction. Its endurance was long enough to exhaust a strong warrior to death in the fog. It was harder to deal with than the Jingwei. This ocean was its world, and in this place, it was the supreme king. Yi Qinghan was unable to confirm whether this sea dog was the same one he had encountered in the past. However, even if it was, he did not trust it completely. Back then, he had fought a great battle with it. In the end, Yi Qinghan had emerged victorious. However, he did not kill it. The sea dog had taken the initiative to beg for mercy. During that period of time, They had even called each other brothers. However, not everyone was like the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King. Who are you? This king does not have much patience. The sky-filling sea hound angrily berated. Yi Qinghan's ears twitched. He seemed to have discovered its existence. His eyes stared at the front left of the Jingwei and said in a deep voice, "Skyhound, do you remember desolation?" Desolation? The sky-filling sea hound's body trembled. It retreated slightly and maintained its vigilance. It asked coldly, "You are desolation?" Phew. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Since the sky-filling sea hound used such a tone to ask, it was naturally that existence from back then. Now, it was up to whether it cared about those feelings or not. Seems like it really is you. Brother, long time no see. I wonder if you still recognize me as your brother? Yi Qinghan pretended to be relaxed and asked with a smile. So it is big brother. Indeed, it has been many years since we last met. The sky-filling sea hound's attitude softened a little. However, the fog did not disperse. This meant that it still had the intention to kill. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes and looked to the front left. He asked indifferently, "Brother, can you disperse the fog? My daughter will be frightened by you." However, the sky-filling sea hound did not disperse the fog. Instead, laughed. The sound was very ear-piercing. I didn't expect Big Brother to have a daughter. Her cultivation is not bad. However, why do I feel like Big Brother is injured? Moreover, your cultivation has dropped so much? It seems like it is not as good as before. The sky-filling sea hound probed. Seeing the sky-filling sea hound's reaction, Yi Qinghan knew that the situation was not good. This fur seal wanted to kill and devour the two's blood. Yi Qinghan gently squeezed Jing Wei's small hand, signaling him to be careful. He was ready to attack. Haha, just a small injury. It is not worth mentioning. Brother, you don't seem to treat me as a brother. You still haven't dispersed the fog. Could it be that you want to attack Big Brother? Yi Qinghan sneered. How would I dare to attack Big Brother? It has been many years since we last met and I want to learn from each other. The sky-filling sea hound said indifferently. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a sneer. He knew a thing or two about fur seals' treachery. However, he was too powerful back then and the fur seals did not dare to act recklessly. In the end, he did not kill him. He did not expect to meet him again after so many years. Yi Qinghan pretended to be relaxed as if he did not care. He patted Jing Wei's shoulder and said with a smile, "Your uncle Tianquan wants to try his hand. Xian, you go out and ask for some advice. Perhaps you will improve." His father. Jing Wei held the moonlight scimitar. The cold light was oppressive and actually managed to disperse some of the fog. A powerful great circle aura burst forth. In terms of cultivation alone, he did not lose to the sky-filling sea hound. However, this fur seal's ability to control the fog was too strong. It was also fast and its fangs were sharp. The slightest carelessness would lead to death in its mouth. Jing Wei did not dare to be careless. However, the sky-filling sea hound did not care. At this moment, he was certain that Yi Qinghan was heavily injured. Otherwise, he would not have let his daughter come out to fight. Xian, your uncle Tianquan's fatal weakness is his abdomen. His strongest points are his fangs and his four limbs. You should focus on his abdomen and back. As long as you can force him to a draw, you will win. Of course, your uncle Tianquan will not be serious with you. You don't need to feel burdened. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. Yes, father. Jing Wei cupped his fists and said through the fog, Uncle Tianquan, please enlighten me. Gagaga. Uncle will personally instruct you. The fog soared into the sky and covered a radius of 10,000 li. One could not even see one's fingers in front of one's face. The wind was strong and the waves were rolling. There was no way to discover the sky-filling sea hound. Naturally, there was no way to attack. Yi Qinghan retreated slightly. In his hand was a saturated origin sacred stone. There were only two left. However, if he used it this time, his weak soul would not be able to withstand the impact. At least, it would allow Jing Wei to escape. Chapter 1469. Boom. Huge waves swept across the sky as the fog rolled. It was so thick that one couldn't even see one's 5 fingers. The fur seals controlled the fog and even divine sense couldn't penetrate it. Although Jing Wei was strong, she was blinded and her battle prowess was reduced by more than half. Whoosh! The fur seals would occasionally dash past Jing Wei. As long as Jing Wei had the slightest reaction, it wouldn't attack and was very cautious. Jing Wei's clear eyes were constantly moving. She held the moonlight scimitar in her hand and stepped on the waves. She could only sense if the fur seals were near through the waves. Every time the waves moved, she would move and test the waters by attacking. The fur seals were neither fast nor slow. They laughed loudly and rolled in the fog. Little niece is indeed Big Brother's daughter. Extremely smart and invincible in the same realm. Big Brother has taught you well. The sea hound laughed loudly. In the distance, Yi Qinghan pricked up his ears, trying to hear the location of the fur seals. However, with his current cultivation, he couldn't find the fur seals and could only maintain a certain distance from them. Yi Qinghan stepped on the waves and kept retreating, hoping to increase the distance between him and the fur seals and Jing Wei. Once the fur seals attacked him, he would be able to destroy the Origin Sacred Stone and injure the fur seals. Jing Wei would then be able to escape if she was further away. After all, she was his daughter. Yi Qinghan smiled easily. Even if he were to die here today, he would be willing. After all, Jing Wei was his only flesh and blood back then. Her existence was also the continuation of Bai Zhe. Perhaps one day, she would become the real Bai Zhe and inherit everything of Bai Zhe. At this moment, the waves in the fog ocean surged. A cold light streaked across and tore through the fog. Boom! Jing Wei carried Bai Zhe's fate and blasted to the left based on her senses. She hit the fur seal's fangs and the fierce impact sent them flying. The fur seals quietly disappeared in the fog ocean and distanced themselves from Jing Wei. Jing Wei was Bai Zhe's daughter. Even if she didn't cultivate the 4 chapters of the legend of the vast sea swallowing heaven swallowing 4 chapters, her fate was still very strong. It wasn't something that others could compare to. Even Yi Qinghan's fate wasn't as good as hers. Otherwise, she wouldn't have cultivated to the peak of great perfection in such a short period of time. Yi Qinghan couldn't tell who was attacking who. He only wanted to distance himself from Jing Wei and lure the fur seals over to perish together. Ooh! Yi Qinghan took deep breaths and swallowed another stalk of dragon celestial grass. He was recovering at all costs. The more energy he recovered, the more confident he would be. The realm stone and sacred origin stone floated in the air, adhering to Yi Qinghan's surroundings. The power of the world curled up, forming a 3-meter vacuum. Yi Qinghan crazily devoured the power of the world, filling his empty body with the power of the world. 10%, 20%, 30%. With the passage of time, Yi Qinghan used this short period of time to recover 30% of his strength. The light flashed again as his strength surged. The stone sword appeared in his hand, and the Inshur's pot appeared in his other hand. The stone sword was placed in the Inshur's pot, and the universe ring was also placed in the Inshur's pot. All the treasures were placed in the Inshur's pot. Even the feather spirit robe was taken off and placed in the Inshur's pot. Clearly, Yi Qinghan didn't want to lose this divine robe. However, Yi Qinghan didn't release Emperor Yi and Snake Lady from the Inshur's pot. Their cultivation realm was only pseudo-sector lord initial stage, not even middle stage. Releasing them would only be sending them to their deaths. Holding the Inshur's pot in one hand and the saturated sacred origin stone in the other, he sneered, "Heavenly dog, since you are so heartless, don't blame me for being unrighteous." At this moment, the fur seals and Jing Wei had already started a life and death battle. It was impossible to see who won and who lost in the fog. Only Jing Wei and the fur seals knew. Boom, boom, hua. Rays of cold light caused the fog to surge. Jing Wei relied on his heaven-defying luck to dodge dozens of attacks from the fur seals. Every time he counterattacked, he couldn't cause any damage to the fur seals. After all, the fur seal's fangs were comparable to a realm artifact. The hazy moon scimitar couldn't threaten it. The fur seals became more and more impatient. After attacking for a long time without success, they gradually lost their patience. The fur seal's roars were deafening. They shuttled through the fog as fast as lightning. Their eyes were fixed on Jing Wei's throat. Jing Wei still lowered his head and didn't say anything. He waited quietly. If the enemy doesn't move, I won't move. If the enemy moves, I will move first. I can always gain the upper hand after making a move. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had already run a few hundred li away. He wanted to attract the attention of the fur seals. He shouted with a hoarse voice, "Heavenly dog, it seems like your cultivation didn't grow much other than your control over the fog." The fur seals looked at Yi Qinghan, who ran far away. The fog wasn't an obstacle to them. Not to mention a few hundred li, even if it was the fog ocean, they could still control it. Big Brother seems to be running for his life. Don't you care about your own daughter? The fur seals were furious and mocked without any restraint. Ah, that's right. You only have one life. I didn't expect little brother to make a move against your big brother. Sigh, what a pity. Yi Qinghan faintly replied. Who's your brother? What a joke. If I wasn't too young and weak back then, how could I let you and the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King leave the fog ocean? The fur seals roared angrily. Since you want to kill me, then come. I'm heavily injured. I'm much easier to deal with than Xian. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and reminded. Swoosh. Yi Qinghan retreated again and again. Although he didn't know the direction, at least he was far away from Jing Wei. He hoped that the explosion of the Origin Sacred Stone wouldn't cause too much damage to Jing Wei. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. The fog covered the sky and shrouded Yi Qinghan. A gust of wind blew past, causing his battle robes to flutter. Father, be careful. Jing Wei was shocked and wanted to rush over. However, Yi Qinghan had created this situation with great difficulty. Of course, he didn't want Jing Wei to be involved. Xian, bring the Insur's pot back to the Great Wasteland Domain and find my main body. Leave quickly. Whoosh. Yi Qinghan quickly locked onto Jing Wei's position based on her voice. He threw the Insur's pot hundreds of miles away and appeared where Jing Wei was. Jing Wei reached out and grabbed the Insur's pot. She was furious and unwilling to leave her father behind. At this moment, she also understood what Yi Qinghan was trying to do. He wasn't afraid of death and distanced himself from her because he wanted to escape. He just wanted to detonate the saturated Origin Sacred Stone again and perish together with the fur seals. Father! Jing Wei let out a sorrowful roar. At this moment, she finally understood why she gave up Bai Zhe without hesitation. Father is very happy to have found you. Leave quickly. Don't let me die in vain. Yi Qinghan roared angrily. Kikik, none of you can leave. I'll let you father and daughter reunite. The fur seals laughed sinisterly and rushed over from afar. Their sharp claws tore through space and time and grabbed at Yi Qinghan's neck. A few hundred miles was nothing to the fur seals, and they arrived in the blink of an eye. However, when the fur seals appeared in front of Yi Qinghan, they realized that the Origin Sacred Stone in his hand was about to explode. They were furious. Chapter 1470. The fur seal's spiritual consciousness was able to detect Yi Qinghan's presence. Even from tens of meters away, it could already see that the sacred stone of fullness in Yi Qinghan's hand was about to be crushed. Bang! The fur seal fell into the sea and saw Yi Qinghan sneer. It knew that he had the intention to kill. Celestial Hound, we're brothers. I'll go with you. Yi Qinghan said coldly. Wait, big brother, I'm just joking with you. Don't be rash. The fur seal was shocked. At such a close distance, the explosion of the Origin Sacred Stone would seriously injure it no matter how good its defense was. On the other hand, the elite guard was hundreds of miles away. Even if the sacred stone exploded, she could still escape with her speed. A distance of dozens of meters was neither far nor near. For an expert of this level, it could be considered close at hand. Yi Qinghan's eyes shone brightly. His twisted hand finally stopped exerting force as he asked hoarsely, "Oh? So you still recognize me as your big brother?" "Of course. We've been brothers for so many years. Why would I attack you?" I was just envious of your father-daughter relationship and wanted to tease my little niece. She's my good niece. Why would I kill her? The fur seal was horrified. It immediately retreated. The mist and the stars within 300 miles disappeared. The fur seal was still very quick-witted. It decisively gave up on killing Yi Qinghan. The Yi Qinghan here was only a doppelganger. It wasn't worth it to self-detonate. Haha, I also don't believe that my brother would attack me. Yi Qinghan laughed. Holding the origin sacred stone, he climbed up the pole. Of course, he didn't want to die together with the fur seal. There wasn't much enmity between them, so he would endure it. They wouldn't have the chance to meet again. Even if they did, the fur seal wouldn't be his match. After the fog dispersed, the blue sea returned to its tranquility. Only the night wind whistled. A huge fur seal about 3 meters long and 1 meter tall appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. With a shake of its body, it transformed into a human with pointy ears and monkey cheeks, looking very wretched and treacherous. The two of them looked at each other and smiled at the same time, as if they were old friends who had not seen each other for many years. Big brother, quickly put away the saturated origin holy stone. This thing is too dangerous. Fur seal bowed and hurriedly said, "We haven't seen each other for many years. Let's go, I'll bring you into the palace to drink and chat merrily. I'll also give my little niece some gifts as a token of my sincerity." The scene changed so quickly that the elite guards couldn't react in time. The fur seals who were yelling about killing just a moment ago were like family members in the blink of an eye. When the elite guards saw that the two of them were not on good terms, they did not dare to get too close. They held the Inshur's pot and were ready to leave the battlefield anytime. Yi Qinghan naturally didn't want to enter the fur seal's palace at the moment. There was no way out of that place. If his cultivation was still at its peak, he could naturally enter, but not now. Yi Qinghan stared at the fur seal and said in a serious tone, "Forget it. Big brother, I've already disturbed you by entering this place unintentionally. Plus, there are pursuers behind us, so I won't implicate you. As long as you open the door and let us leave, it'll be fine. If you can delay some of the sea beasts behind us, I'll be eternally grateful. I'll definitely repay you the next time I return." When the fur seal heard this, it immediately pretended to be angry and said, "Who dares to chase after my brother? I'll go kill them." Sea Dragon Weave's 9 great oceanic clans have all mobilized. There's no need to trouble you, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. When the fur seal heard this, it immediately shrank its head. The 9 great oceanic clans were giants. Once the 9 great oceanic clans' patriarchs descended, the sea beasts they brought along could fill the entire fog sea. Big brother, how did you offend the 9 great oceanic clans? They actually mobilized their entire army. This is a rare occurrence. The fur seal said in a low voice. They must be blind to think that they can snatch this seat's things. All I did was destroy a saturated origin sacred stone and kill some of their kings and young elites. Yi Qinghan coldly snorted. Gulp. The fur seal was somewhat shocked. To be able to survive after destroying a saturated origin sacred stone, just how much of a freak did one have to be to do such a thing? Now that it thought about it, such injuries were really nothing. Big brother, you go first. I can help you delay them for a few hours. The fur seal patted its chest and said arrogantly, as if it was very sentimental. Yi Qinghan smiled in a gratified manner and said, "Good brother, let's drink and chat merrily next time. I won't be staying for long this time." After saying that, Yi Qinghan turned around and left, heading straight for the elite guard. The fur seal's face turned cold as it stared at Yi Qinghan's back. Its eyes flashed with unwillingness, but it did not dare to reveal it. To deal with a madman like Yi Qinghan, it had to either kill him in one blow or both sides would suffer. Yi Qinghan could not be bothered with what the fur seal was thinking. This so-called brother was something that he would not get another chance to meet again. "Zian, let's go," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. When the elite guard heard this, he rushed out of the fog sea with Yi Qinghan and headed in another direction. "Father, is this fur seal your friend?" The elite guard asked doubtfully. "Does it look like a friend to you? It did have the intention to kill earlier, but it was afraid that I would take it down with me. However, it is very smart and knows when to advance and retreat. I can't be bothered to bicker with it. Let's leave this place quickly and find a safe place to rest. Within 5 days, I will be able to form more than 90% of my fighting strength. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. After saying that, the two sped up and left the territory of the fur seal. Half a day later, the deep-sea giant shark and the other experts of the 9 great oceanic species appeared in the fog sea. The fog immediately shrouded them, but it did not take long for the rest to catch up. The fur seal did not dare to stop them and immediately dispersed the fog, allowing them to pass. Sha Kuang looked coldly at the fog sea. He knew that this was the territory of the fur seal and coldly said, "Fur seal, get out here for this old man." The fur seal hated being called a dog the most. It immediately raged, "Are you courting death? This seat has already given you face by letting you pass. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." The fog shrouded the area once again, enveloping most of the oceanic species experts. "Do you think this old man should thank you?" Sha Kuang coldly questioned. "What do you want?" The fur seal hid in the fog and angrily rebuked. "You are the overlord of the fog sea. You have absolute control over this place. Previously, there were 2 people who passed by this place. One of them was severely injured while the other was an elite divine bird. Why didn't you kill them?" Sha Kuang coldly asked. It would have been better if Sha Kuang did not mention it. Now that Sha Kuang mentioned it, the fur seal became even more furious. If he could kill them, he would not let Yi Qinghan and his elite divine bird escape. The fur seal fiercely pounced and almost killed a powerful oceanic beast. It angrily said, "This seat is the overlord of the fog sea. What I want to do is not for you to interrupt. If you want to gather information, you should lower your attitude. Otherwise, this seat will make all of you stay." Sha Kuang was about to explode in anger when he was stopped by the patriarch of the Broken Sea tribe. "Taoist Heavenly Hound, those 2 just stole the supreme treasure of our 9 great oceanic species. Please give us some pointers and tell us the direction they went. We will definitely reward you generously," the patriarch of the Broken Sea tribe said seriously. The fur seal sneered and said in a muffled voice, "Let this king see what kind of reward you will give me." Chapter 1471. In the fog ocean, the fur seals received a large amount of resources and treasures. They sold Yi Qinghan without hesitation. However, they were delayed for half an hour. At that time, Yi Qinghan and Jing Wei had already disappeared into the boundless ocean. In the ocean of nothingness, all the strong cultivators of the sea races came out of seclusion to look for Yi Qinghan. They all wanted to seize the dragon pearl. The 9 great sea races not only wanted to seize the dragon pearl, they also wanted to kill Yi Qinghan. However, at that moment, the most dangerous place was not the ocean of nothingness, but the 9 worlds. In the true martial world of the 9 worlds, the divine bird had already led the army to the imperial city of the true martial world. With the cooperation of Zhu Wu Xan and Jigu, they swept through the imperial city and escorted the army of the sky martial world to the imperial city. They attacked for 3 days and destroyed the defenses of the imperial city. Even Shaolin was killed. Then, the divine bird led the army away, leaving the battlefield to the sky martial world. The sky martial world still thought that it was a great contribution. He led the army of millions and smashed the imperial city into pieces. They plundered the resources of the imperial city and slaughtered the members of the imperial city. The true martial world was in a complete mess. In the end, they angered the ancestor of the true martial world. The Night Demon King, a chosen of a generation, had charged out at the final moment. Looking at the miserable state of the true martial world, he had been enraged. With a single palm, he had scattered the millions of soldiers of the Martial Heaven Legion. At that moment, the divine bird had already escaped with the army of the left general. They did not return to the Shui country or the divine world. They did not return to the ultimate martial world. Instead, they seized a corner of the Forbidden Land and set up camp there. They were waiting for the world to descend into chaos and for the overlords of the seven worlds to come out of seclusion. In the Forbidden Land, there was a narrow mountain range. Millions of soldiers were holed up there. They were all filled with fighting spirit. However, the divine bird did not allow them to go out again. All of you, wait here quietly. The war below is not something that we can participate in. Right now, just focus on your cultivation. I've already fought for all of you. Cultivate in seclusion here for 300 years. How far you can go will depend on yourselves, the divine bird said seriously. The impetuous army did not dare to go against the will of the divine bird. They also knew that the divine bird was thinking for the army, so they could only calm down. The millions of soldiers took out all their resources and set up a spirit gathering array here. The spirit chi here was oppressive and overflowing. As long as one was not an idiot and had a slightly better talent, one could improve, not to mention that these border army soldiers were all invincible kings of the same level. Even the weakest of them was an overgod. In the 9 worlds heaven, divine king of darkness came out of seclusion. He rushed all the way to the ultimate martial world and turned the imperial city of the ultimate martial world into ruins. Revered god Wuji was startled awake. When he saw that the imperial city had been turned into ruins and only a small number of people had escaped, he was instantly enraged and fought with divine king of darkness. The might of a realm lord appeared for the first time. With a palm, he shattered the world. The earth cracked and the mountains and rivers trembled. He held the stars in his hand and killed his way into the universe. With a thought, he destroyed everything within 10,000 miles. Even supreme gods could not withstand the aftershocks. The 2 realm lords fought. The sky changed color and thunder rumbled. The aftershocks spread to other worlds. The 7 realm lords all came out of seclusion. At this moment, how could there still be a pure land? Every world was in a mess. The most miserable ones were True Martial World and Ultimate Martial World. Even their imperial cities were destroyed. The angriest one was not Divine King of Darkness, but revered god Wuji. His imperial descendants were killed by the realm lords and not by the army. Dark Knight, you bitch who is neither male nor female. As a realm lord, you actually attacked mortals. Today, I will destroy you. Divine King Wuji was furious. With a wave of his hand, he controlled the heaven and earth. Everything he saw was his domain. Within the domain was a god. Boom! A realm artifact sword slashed the sky and surrounded Night Demon God King with the power of the world. The sword's aura pierced the heart. It was as if the world had stopped moving. Because Night Demon God King pursued Jian Bugui, he cut himself off. He hated people saying that he was neither male nor female the most. Furthermore, he did not have a dragon root, so he did not have any descendants. In this life, he only had those few descendants. Now that they were all destroyed by the ultimate martial world's army, how could he not be angry? You thief, you connived with the army to kill my descendants. I will fight it out with you. Night Demon God King's voice was sharp. Even his attacks were hesitant. It looked extremely funny. The other realm lords who were originally angry were actually amused. The loud laughter made Night Demon God King even angrier. Once a demon god was angry, corpses would fall over 1,000,000 miles. The entire world fell into darkness. The dark elements along with the power of the world sent 1,000,000 miles into chaos. Shio shio shio. Boom boom boom. The 2 realm lords fought together. Their aura suppressed everyone's soul. As they fought in the sky, the souls of the experts within 100,000 miles were shattered. There was no chance of survival. What if the mountains collapsed? In a flash, the 2 had already exchanged a few thousand moves. The ferocity of the 2 did not seem like they were injured at all. Although they had not used their peak strength, it was already very terrifying. Boom! The 2 forcefully clashed. The world rumbled and the mountains at the border were flattened. To a realm lord, a continent could be completely destroyed in a few hours. The destructive power of these people far surpassed the army. Furthermore, if the army was not prepared, a few million people would not be able to withstand the attacks of a realm lord. Just like the Sky Martial World, 4 million soldiers were scattered in the imperial city. Without a collective defense, they were all killed instantly. The world river was struck and huge waves surged. The surrounding forests were affected and polluted by the world river. They quickly died. The carnivorous fishes were scattered by the energy and their flesh exploded. It was incomparably terrifying. Bitch! What can you do to me? Night Demon God King pinched his thumb and middle finger and mocked revered God Wuji. Revered God Wuji was furious. This was the territory of the ultimate martial world. The lives affected naturally belonged to his people. He did not want to fight here and could only force the Dark Knight Divine King to the true martial world. However, the Night Demon God King was not stupid. He gradually moved towards the Snow Country's divine world. The Snow Country's divine world's realm lord Xue Wudi was naturally unwilling. He had no choice but to take action and block the two outside the world river. Two Dao friends, you can fight if you want, but do not harm the innocent. Xue Wudi was an old man who had experienced many vicissitudes of life. When Yi Qinghan first used the great desolate Dao scripture's secret technique, he was the one who discovered it. However, he did not care at that time. Now, it seemed that he was a wise old man, but he was too confident. Xue Wudi did not know the reason for the chaotic war between the seven worlds. He did not know that the war was caused by the Snow Country's divine world. I will fight it out with you. Night Demon God King saw that there was no way out. He directly took out his own world. It grew bigger and bigger, even exceeding the size of a world. The world carried a dense heavenly might. It was even more terrifying than a world artifact. It crushed the heavens. Night Demon God King gathered the power of the world. The world was filled with faith. Everyone was united. His aura suddenly rose by 10,000 times. The true power of a realm lord was revealed. Revered God Wuji's eyes flashed coldly. He was incomparably cold as he sneered, "Back then, Desolate used his world and did not kill me. With just a sissy like you, you dare to use force against me? Today, I will let you see what kind of person the limit of martial arts is." Chapter 1472. Hierarch Wuji also took out his own world. A vast world of light shot out in all directions. This was a true god. With a wave of his hand, he could move the heavens and earth and cut down the stars. Once the realm lord appeared, who could fight against him? Although the two of them used their world's most fundamental power, it did not look smooth. It must be because their injuries had not fully recovered, and they could only use 30 to 50% of their power. The world's power tore apart the darkness. Like three suns shining in the world, the endless stars could be seen clearly. Such a shockwave was enough to affect the ultimate martial world, true martial world, Snow Country and divine world. The casualties would be immeasurable. You two lunatics, even if you want to fight, you have to pick a place. Is this the place for you to fight? Xue Wudi roared. In the three great worlds, more than 10 continents were crawling in fear, not daring to raise their heads. Once the two of them started fighting, this place would be filled with devastation, becoming a place more terrifying than hell. Jigu and Zhu Wuxin were still at the border of the ultimate martial world. Together with a few million soldiers, they quickly retreated to the world river, but were discovered by Hierarch Wuji. His eyes were filled with anger. "Ants, so you guys also participated in the massacre of my ultimate martial world?" Hierarch Wuji roared. Jigu and Zhu Wuxin were shocked. They quickly moved their army closer to Xue Wudi. The army's god power poured out, forming a huge barrier, hoping to block a few attacks from the realm lord. A prepared army and an unprepared army were obviously different. Jigu and Zhu Wuxin mobilized their army to resist with the determination to die. Even if revered god Wuji wanted to destroy them, he would have to waste a lot of time. Moreover, would Xue Wudi allow him to kill his own people? Xue Wudi's face changed. He did not expect Snow Country and Divine World to participate in the battle. What's going on? Why are you guys in the ultimate martial world? Xue Wudi asked angrily. Gulp. It was the first time Zhu Wuxin saw the Realm Lord. He was so shocked that he did not know what to say. Jigu had seen Xue Wudi before. He was still extremely respectful. He bowed and explained. In order to snatch the pseudo-world artifact from Snow Country's divine world, The ultimate martial world attacked our border cities and killed countless of my people. I had no choice but to chase them out of Snow Country's divine world. I killed in anger. Ooh. Shui Wudi heaved a sigh of relief. It's good that you're on the side of reason. Revered God Wu Ji has nothing to say. Fellow Taoist Wu Ji, this is a competition between juniors. You and I shouldn't interfere. Shui Wudi stepped forward and stood in front of Zhu Wuxin and Ji Gu, reminding them in a deep voice. Revered God Wu Ji frowned. He did not understand the situation. Since it was the great army of the Snow Empire that attacked the ultimate martial world, why did the great army of the ultimate martial world come to the true martial world to destroy their imperial city? This doesn't make sense. As expected, the Night Demon God King said angrily, "Are your ultimate martial realm's marshals all idiots? The Snow Empire and the Divine World have already attacked our hinterland. Instead of retreating, you came to attack my Zhen Wujie and destroy my imperial city. Do you think this old man is easy to bully?" Night Demon Divine King said softly, his movements enchanting. At this moment, even the great army below couldn't help but laugh. Suddenly, they felt that the realm overlord wasn't scary at all. Instead, it was funny. The great army snickered, and the Night Demon Deity King became even more furious. He felt that he had been humiliated, and his killing intent surged. What's going on? What's going on? Shui Wudi was also confused. He held back his laughter and pretended to be dignified as he asked. Revered God Wu Ji was also confused. This didn't make sense at all. One side was beaten up, but instead of taking revenge, they went to beat up the other side. Wasn't this a joke? Supreme Realm Overlord, it's like this? Ji Gu hurriedly cupped his fists and explained. He told the whole story of the Battle of the Seven Realms. Only then did everyone recover. It turned out that all 7 realms were involved. The 7 realm overlords' faces were ugly, especially the true martial world and the ultimate martial world, who had suffered the most losses. The 2 realm overlords stared at Shui Wudi and the other realm overlords. That Zhuo Feng died in battle? Shui Wudi was in disbelief. He didn't believe that an expert would exhaust all the experts around him to death for glory and victory. Ji Gu and Zhu Wuxin looked at each other and smiled bitterly. From the reaction of the divine bird, both of them guessed that Yi Qinghan wasn't dead. But if they said it now, wouldn't it affect the morale of the army? Yes, Supreme Realm Overlord, Marshal Zhuo has fallen for Snow Country. Ji Gu replied firmly. Revered God Wu Ji, Night Demon God King and the other realm overlords were doubtful. How could Zhuo Feng die in battle? However, there was an even bigger conflict that provoked Night Demon God King and Revered God Wu Ji. That was, Night Demon God King used the power of a realm overlord to destroy the ultimate martial world's imperial court. After killing so many soldiers, the ultimate martial world was basically crippled. I don't care if Zhuo Feng is dead or not, but that sissy son of a bitch must die. Revered God Wu Ji glared at Night Demon God King and roared. You're the sissy. Your whole family is sissy. Wu Ji brat, I will make the ultimate martial world disappear today. Night Demon God King roared. The 2 realm overlords' worlds flashed in the sky. At any time, the world energy would collide and the aftermath would destroy countless people. Don't even think about staying in true martial world. Just like Great Desolation World, I will raze you to the ground. Revered God Wu Ji said coldly. Everyone calm down. This matter is a little strange. We should investigate before making a decision. Divine Martial World's Realm Overlord, Supreme God Wu Ji, rushed over, wanting to be the mediator. However, Revered God Wu Ji sneered at Supreme God Wu Ji and said coldly, Your Divine Martial World also participated in attacking my ultimate martial world. Don't you want to give me an explanation? Supreme God Wu Ji frowned and said, Explanation for what? What explanation do you want? This is a matter between the younger generation. If they win, it's their ability. If they lose, you and I shouldn't interfere. As a realm overlord, don't you think it's funny for you to bicker with a group of juniors? My descendants have been passed down for so long and were destroyed in the blink of an eye. You want me to not bicker with them? Then what about Night Demon God King, that sissy, attacking my descendants. Revered god Wuji roared, "If I don't have any descendants, everyone can forget about it. Today, the 9 worlds will be destroyed and we will rebuild the world." "You madman!" Shui Wudi reprimanded coldly. Revered god Wuji sneered and clenched his fists. He charged towards Night Demon God King, wanting to get rid of this enemy of his. Boom! Worlds collided. The worlds didn't shatter. They already had the laws of a true world. They already had life inside, and the hardness of their exterior didn't lose out to a world artifact at all. The shockwave struck the galaxy. The aftershock was vast and mighty. In order to prevent revered god Wuji from going crazy, Shui Wudi's killing intent rose. He secretly said, "Since you want to die, this old man will fulfill your wish." Indat the world artifact divine sword pierced through the 9 heavens. Shui Wudi attacked from behind revered god Wuji, wanting to completely end this chaotic battle. Once a realm overlord joined in a chaotic battle, 2 against 1, that person definitely wouldn't have it easy. As expected, revered god Wuji was sent flying by the shockwave. He was in an extremely sorry state. The divine bird standing in the distant tearing danger ground had a sinister smile on his face. He knew that he had succeeded and the rest was up to Yi Qinghan. Chapter 1473. Note: the Night Demon Deity King in the first 2 chapters has been changed to the Dark Night Demon Deity. In the battle between the 3 sector lords, revered god Wuji was sent flying. 2 against 1, the situation instantly changed. Revered god Wuji was furious as he stared at Shui Wudi. Other than the time when they surrounded Yi Qinghan, when had there ever been a 2 against 1 situation? The moment Shui Wudi attacked, the Supreme Realm Lord Righteous Heaven, Formless Realms Wutian Supreme, 6 Beast Realms 6 Demon Lords, and Divine Martial Realms Divine Martial Realm were all stunned. They didn't expect Shui Wudi to suddenly attack. The 7 top experts all moved away and maintained their vigilance against each other, afraid that the other party would attack again. "Shui Wudi, are you shameless?" Revered god Wuji angrily rebuked with an ugly expression. It was obvious that Shui Wudi's sudden attack was too much for him to handle. Shui Wudi's aura was restrained. He was born like an emperor. Although he had launched a sneak attack, he did not look embarrassed. Instead, he looked at revered hierarch Wuji calmly and said, "Killing you alone and saving more than 10 state citizens, I have a clear conscience." "Shameless." Revered god Wuji said angrily. "Although I don't care about Brother Wudi's sneak attack, I agree with his words. Fighting here can easily affect innocent lives. Plus, this is strange. The 7 realms are fighting for no reason. I think there's a trap." Divine Martial Realms said solemnly. "How is there a trap? I only know that sissy bastard attacked my descendant. If I don't kill him today, I won't be able to get rid of the hatred in my heart. Since you're afraid of hurting the innocent, let's go to the Great Wasteland Domain to fight." Revered god Wuji was furious and didn't want to say anything more. "You're the sissy bastard. Do you think I'm afraid of you? I'll wait for you in the Great Wasteland Domain. If you don't come, then you're my grandson." Night Demon Deity King kept his world and turned into black smoke before disappearing. Even someone as strong as a sector lord was at a loss for words after being provoked. He wouldn't say anything else. Revered god Wuji smiled coldly and clenched his fists. He snorted and turned to follow. The remaining 5 sector lords had solemn expressions. Their might overflowed into the heavens. Just a little bit of their aura was enough to suppress the 9 worlds, causing lightning to flash and thunder to rumble, the heaven and earth to tremble, and strange phenomena to appear. The 5 experts looked at each other and rushed toward the Great Wasteland Domain at the same time. The 7 realm lords had descended upon the Great Wasteland Domain, and revered god Wuji and Night Demon God King had already started fighting because of a disagreement. Other than the towering ancient trees and thorns, there was nothing else in the world of the Great Wasteland. At this moment, the world of the Great Wasteland was being torn apart by the power of the 2 people's world, causing yellow sand to fill the sky. "I am the Lord of Darkness. My wrath causes the heavens to dim and the earth to darken. Night descends and devours everything. Darkness enveloped the world. The fog within 10,000 miles was even thicker than the fog in the fog sea. It was impossible to see anything beyond one's fingers. One couldn't even see one's own clothes. In the darkness, I am the master. Domain, listen to my command and destroy all enemies. Devour all life. Ooh. The dark domain formed countless little vortexes that devoured all life, including the essence of the great wilderness, divine herbs and weeds. They were all devoured by the night demon god king. The dark domain enveloped Hierarch Wu-Ji as it continued to expand outwards, closing in on the other 5 realms lords. Domain. Open. The 5 realms lords attacked at the same time and released their domains. Divine light shone brightly and the power of the realm lingered. Colorful lights forced the dark domain away. In the depths of the great wilderness, Yi Qinghan, who was sitting in front of the great wasteland's monument, frowned and opened his eyes. The realm lord's soul didn't dare to make any strange movements as he stared into the distance. Why are the 7 realms lords fighting? In the great wasteland's domain, even if Yi Qinghan's cultivation wasn't at the realm lord realm, as long as the 7 realms lords were fighting in the great wasteland's domain, he would definitely be able to sense it. Yi Qinghan was a little surprised. His avatar had already left the 9-world sky and entered the void ocean. Logically speaking, the 9-world sky should have calmed down. However, the 7 realms lords had actually attacked and were fighting without any scruples. They were probably really angry. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to get too close. He summoned the heaven desolate beast and instructed, "Go and see why the 7 realms lords are fighting. Don't get too close. They know about your inheritance." The heaven desolate beast sped away and rushed into the clouds. It pierced through the clouds and rushed into the distance. The great wasteland's domain was the largest world in the 9 worlds. Even a realm lord would need a long time to travel to the end. The heaven desolate beast's speed wasn't any slower than a realm lord's. It continued to travel. Not only did the realm lords outside not stop fighting, there seemed to be other realm lords joining in as well. The heaven desolate beast appeared outside the great wasteland's palace. It knew that it couldn't get any closer. A realm lord's divine sense could reach this place from the periphery. For safety's sake, it stopped above the great wasteland's palace and let the star-twining vines split out a clone to rush outside and explore the ancient forest. At this moment, the Supreme Realm's divine lord Jingtian blocked Shui Wudi. He was a tall and sturdy man. He held the Jingtian blade in his hand and had a cold expression. He stared at Shui Wudi with a malicious gaze. He had a good relationship with Hierarch Wu-Ji and had always been on the same side. This time, Shui Wudi wanted to attack and kill Hierarch Wu-Ji again. "Shui Wudi, don't provoke this old man. Otherwise, I will break your legs." Divine Lord Jingtian reprimanded coldly. The most intolerable thing between experts was provocation. Divine Lord Jingtian forced Shui Wudi into a corner. The intensity of their battle was even more terrifying than Hierarch Wu-Ji and Night Demon Deity King. Saber light and sword shadows flashed as snow danced in the air. The snowflakes were divine weapons that could steal a person's soul. A single snowflake could kill someone from 1,000 miles away. Wherever the snowflakes landed, it would be a land of destruction. The great wasteland's trees and brambles fell one after another. The 4 experts were fighting. Only the 3 realm lords were watching the show. However, the battle soon reached them. There were no innocent people in a battle between realm lords. They were so close to each other that it was hard for them not to be hit. Shui Wudi's attack range was too wide. He couldn't control it when facing a realm lord. Moreover, he was still injured. It was already good enough that he could use it. Xiaoda, a snowflake, went out of control and broke through the clouds. It hit the 6 demon deities who were watching the show and cut off a strand of his black hair. Boom. Hua. Divine Lord Jingtian split open the great wastelands and swept through the mountain range in the distance. Wutian's supremacy, who was on top of the mountain peak, was chopped down from the sky. He rolled on the ground miserably. Wutian's supremacy was enraged. He rushed towards Divine Lord Jingtian while the 6 demon deities transformed into 6 monsters. They looked like bears, tigers, wolves, and wolves. One body had 6 heads. They were extremely terrifying. They opened their bloody mouths and bit at Shui Wudi. In an instant, all 6 experts were involved in the battle. Only divine martial supremacy was left stunned. However, he soon reacted and slowly retreated. He wanted to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. He wanted to wait for time to kill all 6 experts and then dominate the world. The blood of the supremacy splashed across the sky. A flame tore through the darkness. The domain was shattered by the world power. The ground cracked open. Abyss after abyss appeared. Chapter 1474. Once touched, the blood of a supreme being would definitely ignite. The flames would overflow into the sky. The outer region of Great Desolate was filled with deep chasms that made one despair. However, the 6 paragons were already injured to begin with, and had only attacked because of the provocation. Now that they were injured, they immediately stopped fighting and retreated to a distance of 10,000 li. They looked at each other warily, and their hair was disheveled. Shui Wudi originally had the demeanor of a transcendent being. But now, he looked more like a beggar with an angry expression. Night Demon King was anxious and angry. His actions were already strange enough. Now, he was even more embarrassed. However, the other realm lords didn't have the mood to laugh at him. Once they started fighting again, someone would die. Just as the 7 of them were about to stop, a flame streaked across the sky above Great Desolate Domain. Life-burning star. The 7 realm lords' expressions changed. They retreated 1,000 miles and looked at each other from afar. Life-burning star. Once this star burned and fell, it could only mean one thing. The realm lord was about to die. That year, when the warlord of Great Desolate Domain died, the life-burning star fell once. They didn't expect to see it again after so many years. How could this be? Shui Wudi's expression changed as he muttered to himself hoarsely. Why would it appear in Great Desolate Domain? Could it be that one of us will die in Great Desolate Domain? The 7 realm lords' expressions turned ugly as they discussed with suspicion. Realm lords, was there anyone in this world that could threaten them? Obviously, there was no one. The strongest 7 were all here. As for the others, even if they were peak pseudo-realm lords, they wouldn't be able to threaten them. Far away, Yi Qinghan looked up and saw the life-burning star. His heart sank because only he knew that this life-burning star might not be targeting the 7 realm lords but him. Shua. Yi Qinghan kept the Great Desolate Monument. His figure flashed as he crossed the river and headed towards Great Desolate Palace. The Great Desolate Domain was extremely vast and desolate. Yi Qinghan traveled through the endless continent alone. At the border, the Star-Twisting Vines clone sent back all the information from the outside world. A portion of the Star-Twisting Vines sped back to search for Yi Qinghan. At this moment, the 7 realm lords were no longer fighting. They were discussing a truce. They might be able to avoid death. However, they didn't trust each other and it would be hard for them to work together. Shui Wudi was the clearest. He lowered his head and thought for a long time. His wise eyes flashed with light. And he reminded. Supreme Divine Marshal nodded and replied, I'm also very curious. Why did the Ultimate Martial World attack the Snow Country's Divine World first, and when the Snow Country's Divine World counterattacked and occupied the core of the Ultimate Martial World, why did the Ultimate Martial World attack the True Martial World? And after the 7 supreme experts finished their discussion, they left the Great Desolate Domain. The outside of the Great Desolate Domain had become hell. It was a shocking scene. Yi Qinghan saw the border through the Star-Twisting Vines clone. When he saw the 7 realm lords, a seed of anger sprouted in his heart. He wanted to rush over and kill the 7 realm lords right now. However, it could be seen that the 7 realm lords were no longer united. The death of the Star-Twisting Vine meant the death of a realm lord. They didn't know that Yi Qinghan was still alive. The 7 of them didn't trust each other anymore. They were even suspicious and vigilant. If there was a chance, it would be normal for them to kill each other. Yi Qinghan looked at the current situation and a smile appeared on his handsome face. Seems like the godly bird has lured the 7 realm lords out. Although the timing is different from what I planned, I can still make them kill each other. This is a great contribution. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. His soul was operating at high speed. His main body's cultivation was already at the high pseudo-realm lord. As long as his clone returns and shares his comprehension, his cultivation would quickly rise to the peak realm. He would only be a step away from the absolute realm. Once he reaches the absolute realm, the realm lords wouldn't be a threat to him. Their speed would be the same and neither would be able to do anything to the other. Now, the great desolate domain no longer had any weakness for the 7 realm lords to use against Yi Qinghan. If he wanted to escape, the 7 realm lords wouldn't be able to find him. I need time. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and stared into the distance. Every step he took was dangerous. He could be discovered by the realm lords at any time. He knew that he couldn't stay in the great desolate domain any longer. He turned and rushed towards the west of the great desolate domain. That was the forbidden land of the 9 worlds. Many people had never been there before. At this moment, the divine bird's feathers stood on end. It felt that danger was approaching. It made a prompt decision and gathered all the troops. Luo Bufan, Nen Lufeng, quickly dispersed the army. If there is a day when the heavens collapse and the earth rends, all of you shall gather together and conquer the 9 worlds with me. The divine bird said firmly. What? Disperse the army? The situation is so good now. If we disperse, won't we be giving up such a good opportunity? Nan Lufeng asked unwillingly. Once the realm lord comes out of his seclusion, he can find us at any time. The more people we have, the more obvious we will be. If we gather together, we will be wiped out sooner or later. Let's split up now and return to our respective homes. 100 years later, we will gather at the divine world's imperial city of Snow Country. The divine bird spoke resolutely. This is an order. Carry it out immediately. The divine bird was very dignified. It had the majesty of a great commander. Luo Bufan and Nen Lufeng were both promoted by the divine bird. They were very obedient and dispersed the army on the spot. The army was reluctant to leave. They knew that only by following the divine bird would they have food to eat. How many resources had the divine bird cheated them out of? Their cultivation was increasing day by day, and their battle strength had doubled. The sense of belonging had been deeply rooted. The army of the left martial residence was dismissed. The captive army was also dismissed. However, they did not want to leave. They hoped to continue following the divine bird. However, the divine bird was afraid of death. If it brought them along, they would definitely be found by the realm lords. Therefore, it did not bring them along. Luo Bufan quickly dispersed them. 10 people in a group and leave this place. Later, the 3 of us will leave together. The 2 of you will protect me. The divine bird said anxiously. The captive army also took a portion of the resources. 10 people in a group quickly disappeared from the torn danger ground. However, there were more than 10 strongest Supreme God experts who did not leave. They were all newly promoted Supreme God experts and were loyal to the divine bird. They looked at the divine bird with anticipation, hoping to leave with it. The divine bird was most afraid of death. Especially in this chaotic world, it had a few good bodyguards. Those who were left behind would definitely be very loyal. Cough cough. Since you are so loyal, I will let you stay. 13 people isn't a lot. It shouldn't be too eye-catching. The divine bird's eyes flashed as he said wretchedly, "Let's go. I will take you to get rich." Chapter 1475. The divine bird dismissed the army of the left marshal's mansion, then took the 13 newly ascended overgods with it and fled into the distance. With it around, all the treasures in the world could be found. It was one of its strongest abilities, and there was no need for others to worry about it. But at this moment, Shui Wudi had returned to the Snow Country's divine world. He went to the Great Desolate Prison and found out that the survivors of the Great Desolate Prison had been rescued. All the prisoners on death row were dead, and the corpses underground had yet to rot. His expression changed. When it came to the survivors of the Great Desolate Prison, things weren't so easy. There are survivors of the Great Desolate Prison, and they saved the Great Desolate Prison. Seems like things aren't as simple as I thought. Shui Wudi frowned. He walked on the snow and muttered to himself, "Who saved the Great Desolate Prison? Dragon's resentment? He's dead. Yan Ao is also dead. Only Huang Peng is left. Desolate only has these three most capable helpers. Could it be that Huang Peng has appeared again? Desolate." Shui Wudi's eyes gleamed coldly. That terrifying opponent, the one who made his enemies despair. Back then, the seven worlds joined hands to destroy the Great Desolate Prison. If the Great Desolate Prison rose again, how much hatred would there be? Seems like I have to clean up the Great Desolate Prison again. Shui Wudi left the snow and stepped on the snow dragon. He seemed to be moving slowly, but in fact he was as fast as lightning. The snow dragon soared into the sky and quickly disappeared from the snow. A month later, in the Snow Country's Divine World's imperial city, the seven realm lords gathered with a solemn expression. They seemed to know that there were survivors of the Great Desolate Prison. This old man doesn't want to explain too much. Regardless of whether the chaotic war of the seven realms was caused by the survivors of the Great Desolate Prison, it's a fact that they have appeared. We are all realm lords and we have our own things to do. We can live forever in the future. There's no need to lose the big picture because of a small matter. So, the most important thing now is to clean up the Great Desolate Prison and kill all of them. Shui Wudi said. Back then, you were the one who insisted on keeping the Great Desolate Prison. Now that something has happened, you have to take full responsibility. Night Demon God King snorted. Shui Wudi looked at God King coldly and said with disdain, "Since you're so clear, I can take care of the survivors of the Great Desolate Prison, but what about Huang Peng? Can you deal with it? He is a perfect circle expert who has received Desolate's true inheritance. His speed is already the same as a realm lord's. Without the seven of us working together, it will be hard to catch him, right? I don't think Huang Peng is still alive." "The one who saved the pariahs of the Great Desolate Prison might not be Huang Peng," said the six demonic sovereigns. "If not Desolate Peng, who else can save the lowly people of the Great Desolate Prison from the snowfield? Could it be that the Desolate Lord has been resurrected?" Shui Wudi scolded angrily. But when he mentioned the two words Desolate Lord, his expression turned ugly. It was as though someone was choking him. The two words Desolate Lord were too frightening. Even a sector lord like him was afraid. Hearing Shui Wudi's words, the faces of the other six sector lords changed. If one had to divide the experts into a pyramid, then the Desolate Lord's cultivation was already at the top of the pyramid. He was the only one. The other seven sector lords were below him. Below them were Yan Ao, Ling Yan, and the other military saints. As long as they were given an army of 10 million, it wouldn't be a problem for them to kill a sector lord. Desolate Peng and the old man from the Mu clan were at the next level. Fake sector lords were below Desolate Peng, followed by Paramount God. Every level was a chasm that was hard to cross. If it was a one-on-one battle, even if they couldn't kill the opponent in an instant, they could still torture the opponent to death. Clear out the Great Desolate Domain. Don't leave anyone alive. The seven sector lords no longer hesitated. They were frightened by the name Desolate Lord. In addition, with the fall of the life-burning star, there would definitely be a sector lord that would fall in a short period of time. None of them wanted to die. The seven sector lords personally organized the army and charged towards the Great Desolate Domain. Yi Qinghan was currently rushing towards the west of the Great Desolate Domain. The west was the Western Desert. It was a combination of desert and primitive forest. There were many tall mountains and murderers everywhere. Some of the races that never came out were all here. They didn't like the noisy human world, and this place wasn't suitable for humans to live. Ling Yan and the other experts were all here to train. The 9 worlds were divided into 3 parts. The Void Ocean, the 9 worlds, and the Western Desert. The ancient forest, the towering mountains, the occasional desert, poisonous snakes, and corpses. One had to be prepared to die here. No one knew what they would encounter in the Western Desert. The giant blood race might have come from this place. Xiao 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 da shua shua shua. Yi Qinghan shuttled through the forests and mountains of the western desert. He would occasionally jump and dive while dragging the green vines. His figure was hard to catch. Huff huff huff. Yi Qinghan was panting heavily. Sweat appeared on his forehead. The space-time here was especially oppressive. The ancient trees were thick. Perhaps even a dozen burly men together wouldn't be able to hug them. A branch descended from the sky and formed another ancient tree. They were connected, and it was impossible to tell which was the real body. The trees here had lived for countless years. Some of them might even be older than some sector lords. Whether they had souls or not, only they themselves would know. A gorilla appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. They looked at each other, but it quickly retreated. The creatures here had a certain level of intelligence. It was easy to tell if they were a match for Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan walked close to the ancient tree. He held a short dagger in his hand. It was cold and gloomy. There was a strong poison on it that would kill anyone who came in contact with it. Yi Qinghan's escape wasn't a fluke. He understood the Seven Sector Lords too well. When he just entered the Western Desert, the Seven Sector Lords had already led their armies into the great desolate domain. Search every inch of the area. Don't let anyone go. The Seven Sector Lords had given a death order. No one dared to disobey. Zhigu and Zhu Wuxin looked at each other. They were uneasy. They couldn't be sure if the so-called Zhuoshui was from the great desolate domain. That Zhuoshui was too terrifying. His actions were watertight. No one could see his true intentions. Even that stupid bird had disappeared. If they provoked that monster, even their old relationship wouldn't be able to save them. Whooshed at this moment, tens of thousands of vines soared into the sky and pierced through the bodies of a wave of soldiers. Miserable screams echoed throughout the wilderness. Pumph! Shui Wudi's thought rushed into the depths and crushed the branches of the star-twining vine. The main body of the star-twisting vine in the depths of the cave shuddered. It quickly retracted its vines into a ball about 1 meter in diameter and rolled in the direction Yi Qinghan had fled. None of Yi Qinghan's spirit pets were easy to deal with. They were led by the divine bird to run away at the slightest sign of danger. They didn't care about anything else. They rode the divine beasts to escape into the depths of the great desolate domain. Other than the divine beasts and divine herbs, there wasn't even a shadow of a human. There was no need to defend to the death. The interior of the great desolate domain was empty. The Seven Sector Lords were doomed to fail. However, they still led their armies into the depths of the great desolate domain. Sooner or later, they would reach the Western Desert. Chapter 1476. Shua, Shua, Shua. Yi Qinghan sped through the mountains. The further he was from the great wasteland world, the better. However, the heavens didn't allow him to do so. Although the creatures here had intelligence and knew how to think, there were some wild beasts that lived in groups that were hard to communicate with. Boom! Yi Qinghan punched through the head of a huge beast and pierced the head of another leader with his dagger, instantly killing the two strongest leaders. Only then did the rest of the beasts run away pathetically. Blood dyed his clothes red. Yi Qinghan's eyes flickered. Taking advantage of the night, he left the outer region of the Western Desert and rushed into the depths. The Western Desert was boundless and inconvenient to fly. There were too many poisonous fog and other races, which were extremely harmful to experts. If a fake sector lord wasn't careful, he would lose his life here. Pooh, pooh, pooh. Yi Qinghan was running. His breathing was steady, and his eyes were dazzling like stars in the night sky. After running for 1 day and 1 night, he finally arrived at a valley. This place was exceptionally cold. The creatures that could survive here were all cold-resistant creatures with thick skin and thick hair. The leaves were also extremely narrow. Sitting in a narrow cave in the valley, Yi Qinghan caught a beast with vigorous blood and qi. After killing it, he skinned it and removed its bones. With a wave of his hand, flames shot out and he used a divine sword to roast the meat. Soon, a fragrant aroma filled his nose. Eating the roasted meat, Yi Qinghan lowered his head and pondered. Now that he was exposed, those sector lords would definitely follow him like maggots and wouldn't give up until they reached their goal. Shua. Furthermore, he waved his hand and summoned Xiaoyu. She was holding a short sword in her hand and seemed to be cultivating. She was puzzled to be summoned by Yi Qinghan for no reason. What's wrong? Where is this? Xiao Yu was now more mature. She was as beautiful as a flower and had a graceful figure. She was very voluptuous and was no longer that immature female assassin. She spoke with a smile that was enough to charm everyone. Yi Qinghan casually threw a piece of roasted meat and said indifferently, "This is the Western Desert Danger Zone. Sit down, I have something to ask you." Xiaoye unceremoniously pierced the barbecued meat with her dagger. She sat down and enjoyed the delicious food while curiously asking, "Why are you here? Isn't this place very dangerous? You brought the Great Wastelands Monument here. If you die, won't we all die with you?" Yi Qinghan shrugged and snorted, "I have no choice but to run. The realm masters of the 7 realms have discovered my traces. If I stay in the Great Wasteland domain, I will definitely die." "The 7 realms master has come out of seclusion? Who provoked them?" Xiao Yu asked as she ate the barbecue. "Who else could it be other than the divine bird?" Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and said helplessly. Little Yu was at a loss for words. She ate the barbecued meat and didn't say anything else. She was completely convinced by the divine bird. There was no one else other than the divine bird that could toy with the entire 9 realms. A few months ago, the life-burning star fell. A realm master will definitely fall in a short period of time. Help me calculate where my path of survival lies." Yi Qinghan said in a serious tone. The life-burning star had fallen in the past. Not long after, Yi Qinghan had died in battle. Now that it had fallen again, it was very likely that it was targeting him. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to plan ahead. Xiaoye was instantly stunned. She even forgot to eat the barbecued meat in her mouth. Her eyes were filled with shock. Life-burning star. I thought my master was lying to me. So there really is a star that can predict the fall of a realm master. Xiaoye muttered. Upon mentioning calculating heaven, Yi Qinghan's lips involuntarily curled up. That old bastard was really asking for a beating. Xiaoye stabilized her emotions and quickly finished the barbecued meat. She wiped her mouth and said seriously, "I am not as good as master. I don't know if my calculation is accurate or not. I will do my best." A black copper coin appeared in Xiaoye's hand. She formed a seal with both of her palms and pressed the copper coin in her palm. She pulled it left and right and the copper coin appeared at the tip of her 2 middle fingers. She flipped it over and flicked her fingertips. The copper coin flew into the sky. Yin-yang reversal, infinite calculation, sovereign blood, heaven's path. Xiaoye pinched her middle finger and a drop of essence blood flew onto the copper coin. She said in a low voice, "Now, gather your essence blood with the copper coin. Merge your heart with the heavens and sense the path of survival." When Yi Qinghan heard this, he didn't hesitate to pinch his finger and force a drop of essence blood to fly into the copper coin. Wang! What? The copper coin violently trembled and released a 7-colored divine radiance. It formed a beam of light that shot into Xiaoye's forehead. A large amount of future scenes appeared in Xiaoye's sea of consciousness. It was extremely dangerous. It was as if she saw the process of the 7 realm masters chasing after them. Fear appeared on Xiaoye's beautiful face. Cold sweat poured down like rain. However, just as she was about to decipher Yi Qinghan's life path, the might of the heavens surged and turned into a sharp sword. It carried a vast and desolate power and swept through the heavenly river. It actually sent Xiaoye flying. Poof! Xiaoye spat out blood and tumbled in the sky for more than 10 rounds before being caught by Yi Qinghan. Her face was extremely pale and exhausted. It was as if half of her life force had been used up. Yi Qinghan didn't think that Xiaoye would be so heavily injured from a single divination. She was a fake realm master. Looking at Xiaoye's painful appearance, Yi Qinghan felt very guilty. He said hoarsely, "Since the mysteries of heaven are unfathomable, then forget it." "No, it's not that the mysteries of heaven are unfathomable, cough cough." Xiaoye coughed out blood. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her jade-like hand grabbed Yi Qinghan's collar and said softly, "It's you? You're unfathomable. I was attacked by the heavens because I saw your life path." Yi Qinghan frowned slightly. He was only a realm master. Was there a need for the heavens to protect him? If it was really protecting him, then the great wasteland domain wouldn't have been destroyed. If it was really protecting him, then how did Heaven Padian calculate his life path? It's fine. Enter the great wasteland monument and rest. Yi Qinghan hurriedly sent Xiaoye into the great wasteland monument. Then he summoned Gu Qingyu and Jiang Jingtian out. During this period of time, the people of the insane sect had been bitterly cultivating. They had recovered from their injuries and their cultivation had increased by leaps and bounds. After experiencing the calamity of death, their talents had been unearthed. Their battle prowess had increased exponentially. The two of them had broken through to the pseudo-realm master realm and pulled away from the majority of the experts. Yi Qinghan looked at the two brothers and took a deep breath. Then he instructed in a deep voice, "From today onwards, the two of you will spread out within 10,000 miles of me. Don't go too far or too close. If I die in battle, you must think of a way to subdue the great wasteland monument and take it away." Jiang Jingtian and Gu Qingyu didn't know that they had been exposed. Seeing Yi Qinghan so pessimistic, they immediately frowned. "What made you so desperate?" Gu Qingyu asked in dissatisfaction. "It's been so many years. Nothing has defeated you, let alone giving up your life. Why have you fallen so low now that your cultivation has increased?" Yi Qinghan explained in a deep voice. "The 7 realm masters have come out of their seclusion. I'm not being pessimistic. I'm just leaving a way out for my brothers. The Great Wasteland Monument cannot be left to them. Otherwise, the survivors of the Great Wasteland and the people of the insane sect will all die miserably." Yi Qinghan stared at the two and reminded them, "Remember, if you obtain the Great Wasteland Monument, immediately use your essence blood to cover the fluctuations of the God of Desolation's power." Unless it was absolutely necessary, Yi Qinghan definitely wouldn't have made such arrangements. Chapter 1477. The Western Desert was a desolate and uninhabited world. Besides the roars of wild beasts, there was only the howling of gales. However, this valley was very quiet. Yi Qinghan wanted to leave a way out for his brothers, so he prepared for the worst. Huang Peng was the strongest, but he could not appear or fight. He could only use the power of Desolate God. Once he appeared, he would only be a bargaining chip to hasten his death. Jiang Jingtian and Gu Qingyu were the strongest. They also had pseudo-world weapons. Their speed was not inferior to Yi Qinghan's. As long as Yi Qinghan created an opportunity for them, it would not be a problem for them to escape with the Great Wasteland Steel. The three brothers understood each other. There was no need to say anything. They just looked at each other and their expressions became even more resolute. "Also, if I die, Xiao Yu is not allowed to leave the Great Wasteland Steel. Wait until my clone returns." Yi Qinghan looked at the two and said in a deep voice. Xiao Yu was Swan Potion's disciple. He could not completely trust her. Even if he could trust her now, once Swan Padian appeared, no one could guarantee that she would be able to control his will. The three of them discussed for a long time and created a perfect plan. However, the final outcome was Yi Qinghan blowing himself up, injuring the 7 realm lords and sending the Great Wasteland Steel away. Then Jiang Jingtian and Gu Qingyu would search for the Great Wasteland Steel and take it away. There was no other outcome. The difference in strength was too great. There was no other way. Jiang Jingtian and Gu Qingyu were silent. They could be considered to have agreed with this outcome. However, after this explosion, Yi Qinghan would lose all of the Great Wasteland's secret arts. All of his years of comprehension would go down the drain. At most, he would be able to transfer it to his own son. However, his own strength would be greatly reduced. The forest swayed and the tall mountains stretched out in a majestic manner. The three youths were holding divine weapons and were about to split up. Suddenly, Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly as he stared into the depths of the forest. "Wait, there seems to be an old friend approaching." Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. It was unknown whether he was happy or shocked. However, one could see that his killing intent was spreading. Yi Qinghan's divine sense continued to approach the depths of the desert. However, The Western Desert was indeed not suitable for humans to live in. Even the divine senses of experts were restricted. Just as his divine sense reached 10,000 miles away, Yi Qinghan's forehead began to sweat. A faint wave of energy appeared in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. Strong winds blew everywhere, and there were continuous rumbling sounds. More than 10,000 miles away, a middle-aged man dressed in green was fighting with a group of giant wolf race experts. Further in, it was a mess. It was obvious that he had fought his way here. The middle-aged man was incomparably majestic. Every move of his brought along pressure and momentum. The divine sword in his hand was like flowing water, unyielding and domineering. He himself also had a strong heroic spirit. His facial features were flawless, perfect to the extreme. He was 7 feet tall and mighty. His divine robes were torn by the wolf claws, but he seemed even more powerful. Whooshed at the middle-aged man's sword pierced through the throat of a giant wolf from a strange angle. With a gentle shake, a destructive power swept into the giant wolf's body, causing it to fall heavily into the depths of the mountain. Now, only 2 giant wolves were left. They stared at the middle-aged man ferociously. They bared their fangs as if they couldn't wait to devour him. The middle-aged man's attacks and movements were all very precise and strange. He didn't panic in the face of danger. He was definitely not an ordinary person. Now that he was dealing with the remaining 2 powerful wolves, he was even more skilled. At this moment he finally let out a smile. Even though he was injured, he was still as domineering as before. He must have been an extremely handsome man when he was young. Yi Qinghan, who was at the periphery of the Western Desert, noticed this man. He grinned coldly. His whole body was tense and slightly trembling. Ling Yan, I didn't expect you to travel alone in the Western Desert. Since you've given me a chance, I won't be polite. Yi Qinghan roared in a low voice. It's Ling Yan? Gu Qingyu asked in shock. This peak military saint had only submitted to Yan Ao in his entire life. Only Yan Ao could lead troops more ruthlessly and ferociously than him. With a mere 1/10 of his troops, he had crippled tens of millions of his troops. Ling Yan had too many legends. Even the realm lords of the 7 realms acknowledged him. As long as he had 10 million troops, he could definitely kill a realm lord. His ability to lead troops was already extraordinary. He could borrow the strength of the army to sweep through the battlefield. Yi Qinghan nodded solemnly. He waved his hand and took the lead to charge into the depths of the mountain. At this moment, Ling Yan was fighting with the giant wolves. These giant wolves were very powerful. Moreover, they lived in packs. The attacks of each giant wolf couldn't be underestimated. However, an entire pack was almost exhausted by Ling Yan. As long as he couldn't kill this kind of military saint in one go, he could slowly kill more experts. However, at this moment, Ling Yan didn't know that Yi Qinghan was approaching. Otherwise, he would definitely give up on killing the giant wolves and choose to leave quickly. Ling Yan was a peak realm expert. Naturally, his soul was also at the peak realm. However, his soul was still 1 level lower than Yi Qinghan's. Yi Qinghan, Jiang Jingtian, and Gu Qingyu flew at the speed of a rock spreading its wings. In just half an incense stick's time, they crossed several mountains and appeared not far from Ling Yan. They lowered their speed and restrained their aura. They didn't want to alarm Ling Yan. I can't make a move. Huang Ping definitely can't either. I'll leave it to you guys. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and summoned all the experts of the insane sect. He signaled them to conceal their aura and hide in the sky above a canyon, waiting for Ling Yan to walk into the trap. Shirgu, Heavy Grudge, Tong Tong, Mu Zhuang, Nye Tian, Xian Yinye, Xian Yanxue, Xia Ziluo, Medusa, Lin Wutian, and even Si Wuxie, who had disappeared for a long time, appeared. The experts of the older generation of the insane sect all came out. Yi Qinghan's 2 sons, Desolate Lord Yi and Yi Chintian, also appeared. Lin Wutian's son, the Sky Sword Body, was accepted as a disciple by Gu Qingyu. Now, he appeared with a sword in his hand. He was definitely powerful. He had surpassed his predecessors and became a sword-man supreme god, comparable to his father. Yi Qinghan summoned all the experts who had broken through to the supreme god realm. Their opponent was Ling Yan. The strongest, Huang Ping, and himself couldn't make a move. Otherwise, they would definitely expose their position. At this time, they could only rely on numbers to suppress Ling Yan. Fortunately, this group of people was not easy to deal with. Shan Bing was the absolute king. No one said a word. Looking at Yi Qinghan's hand gesture, they appeared in their positions and concealed their aura like ordinary stones. Ling Yan fought and retreated. He didn't seem to want to stay in the western desert to cultivate anymore. He wanted to leave this place and return to the Snow Country's divine world. If Ling Yan wanted to return to the Snow Country's divine world, he had to go to the Great Wasteland Domain first. When he wanted to go to the Great Wasteland Domain, he would inevitably pass by Yi Qinghan's place. The distance between the two sides was 100 li. It wasn't far, but it wasn't close either. Yi Qinghan stood behind a huge rock on a mountain peak. His eyes were like lightning as he looked at Ling Yan. His aura was restrained, making him look like a huge rock. The wind on the mountain peak was particularly fierce, blowing his black hair and divine robe. Chapter 1478. The two giant wolves were the leaders. They were very powerful and very intelligent. They attacked from the left and right and cooperated very well. Ling Yan could not kill them in a short time. Instead, he was pushed back dozens of miles. As they got closer to the encirclement, the people of the Kuang sect held their breaths. Li Feng, Mo Li, Xiao Yu, Jiang Jingtian, Gu Qingyu, and Shirgu all had pseudo-world weapons. Their cultivation was strong enough. They occupied 8 directions, and the rest cooperated. There were more than 30 people. Once the encirclement broke out, it would be difficult for Ling Yan to escape. Ling Yan was a top master. His premonition was very strong, and his warning ability was not bad. As he approached the valley behind him, he sensed danger. However, he did not notice the people of the Kuang sect who were holding their breaths. In addition, the continuous attacks of the giant wolves made him too busy to pay attention. He was less than 10 miles away from the huge valley. Boom! One of the giant wolves' claws crushed a small hill. The ancient trees were uprooted. Its huge body gave people a strong sense of oppression. Yi Qinghan looked from afar, frowning. If the two giant wolves did not die, it was very likely that they would cause immeasurable damage to the encirclement. Ling Yan was also secretly anxious. The danger from the valley was getting stronger. He had to attack aggressively. He wanted to kill the giant wolves so that he could face the danger behind him with peace of mind. Ling Yan attacked fiercely. His sword turned into hundreds of sword shadows and attacked the giant wolf on the left. It was as fast as lightning. The giant wolf on the right leaped into the air. It opened its bloody mouth and bit from behind. Its giant claws tore through space and time, rolling up the wind and uprooting the thorny trees. Boom! Ling Yan, who seemed to be extremely fast, suddenly turned around. It looked like the giant wolf on the left was still unstoppable, but his real body had already reached the giant wolf behind. At that moment, even the people of the Kuang sect did not notice anything strange. However, Yi Qinghan's eyes shone brightly as he stared into the distance. He saw Ling Yan's real body pierce the throat of the giant wolf behind him. His body twisted and jumped, appearing on the back of the giant wolf. With a twist of his divine sword, he cut off the giant wolf's neck. The giant wolf howled. It was so fast that its soul did not die, but the bottom half of its body fell into the mountains. The wolf head pounced forward and bit down on an ancient tree with its teeth. The ancient tree was shattered by the impact. The remaining she-wolf was burning with rage. It shattered the afterimage and madly bit towards Ling Yan. Ling Yan didn't have enough time to resist, and was half a step too slow to dodge. His long legs were torn apart, and the snow was riddled with scars. Boom! Ling Yan flew backwards, and the exuberant blood on his leg dyed the thorny ancient tree below red. Swish! Swish! Roared the huge wolf roared, its sharp claws crazily clawing at Ling Yan, forcing Ling Yan to have no choice but to speed up and escape towards the valley. Yi Qinghan watched as Ling Yan was forced into the valley. The corner of his mouth lifted as he thought, "Ling Yan, this will be your burial ground." As soon as they entered the valley, Gu Qingyu and Jiang Jingtian sealed off the entrance, Lin Wutian and Li Feng sealed off the exit, Xiaoye and Shigu sealed off the left side, Sky Sword Physique and Desolate Lord Yi sealed off the right side, and the rest of the people coordinated from all directions, forming an inescapable net. The barrier's divine radiance enveloped a radius of several li. It was suppressed at a low altitude, and even flying was not possible. Yi Qinghan disappeared in a flash and appeared within the barrier. He stood on the left side of the valley, beside Desolate Lord Yi, and looked down at Ling Yan who had entered the encirclement. With a slight smile, he lowered his voice and said, "Ling Yan, long time no see. Look at who I am." Ling Yan's hair stood on end. He raised his head to look, and goosebumps appeared all over his body. It was an unfamiliar face, but that temperament and terrifying aura as well as soul fluctuation was something he would never forget. Ling Yan stared at Yi Qinghan's handsome and vigorous face, and discovered that his face was twisting and gradually transforming into an even more imposing young man. He was 8 feet tall, and his black hair was as black as ink, draping down to his waist. His facial features were perfect to the point of being an uncanny workmanship. His bones emitted a desolate aura, as if the entire world had disappeared, leaving only desolation. The barrier blocked Yi Qinghan's aura on the surface, and did not spread outwards. Yi Qinghan did not dare to use the desolate god's power, and could not use the Great Wasteland Tablet. However, he could use his name and aura to suppress Ling Yan's soul, preventing him from displaying his full strength. Desolate Lord, you are still alive." Ling Yan looked like an indomitable existence, and was not afraid of anything. Even if a realm lord appeared, his expression would not change. However, he could not do so now. His eyes were filled with fear, and it was fear that came from his bones. This Gu is still alive. Otherwise, how could Yen Ao, the resentful dragon, and the countless citizens of the Great Wasteland rest in peace? If I die like this, how can I face those brave souls who died for the Great Wasteland domain? Yi Qinghan's voice was deep and heavy. His face became inviolable. His voice was like the heavenly Tao, filled with an aura of reverence. In the past, Yi Qinghan was cold, but mixed with the aura and emotions of a human. He was even a little wretched and treacherous. But now, he had become majestic, like an emperor that could not be blasphemed. His words were enough to make people submit. At this time, not only Ling Yan was stunned, even the people of Kuang's sect were stunned. This was not Yi Qinghan at all. If Huang Peng was here, he would know that this was the true Desolate Lord. His body was filled with the aura of desolation. It was a type of nothingness, a type of desolation, and also a type of tyrannical aura. Yi Qinghan looked down at Ling Yan. His divine robe had turned into flames, fluttering in the wind, and even the void was distorted by the heat. "Are you going to submit yourself, or do you want them to kill you?" Yi Qinghan's eyes were like torches, causing people to shiver in fear. Ling Yan took a deep breath and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His body was visibly trembling as he roared, "Desolate Lord, Yen Ao and I are serving our own masters. I have a clear conscience. You can kill me, but don't think of humiliating me." The huge wolves near Yen Ao also stopped their attacks. They only exchanged a glance with Yi Qinghan and did not dare to move again. They were frightened by the aura and will in his eyes. They slowly lay down and chose to submit. Ling Yan looked around cautiously. He noticed that among the 10 strongest people, 6 of them were holding pseudo-world weapons. There were also some old men whose auras were clearly not right. They were much stronger than ordinary supreme gods, especially Celestial Venerate Nangong, Great Demonic God, and the others. Their auras were comparable to pseudo-realm lords. However, they were not the main attackers. Instead, they were sealing the enchantment. Ling Yan's hopes of escaping were even slimmer. "Desolate Lord, if you want to deal with me, you don't need to use such a formation. But now, you are using this group of people to besiege me. Your cultivation has not recovered, so you don't dare to expose your position?" Ling Yan was smart and immediately questioned. "You are just a stepping stone for them." Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently and waved his hand. "Go, let's end this quickly." Chapter 1479. Yi Qinghan waved his hand, distorting space and time. A hand blade pierced through the void and attacked Ling Yan. It was the start of the final battle. This was a pure physical attack without any desolate god power. Ling Yan was frightened by the desolate lord's prestige and didn't dare to resist. He turned around and rushed toward the exit. The exit was blocked by Lin Wutian and Li Feng. Both of them were top-notch swordsmen. They were one with the sword and could control everything around them. Lin Wutian pulled out his sword and rose. However, his goal wasn't to injure Ling Yan, but to keep him in the encirclement. A sword light tore through space as fast as lightning, forming countless sword shadows. It was hard to tell where the sword was. Boom! Li Feng held the three-pronged pincer and attacked Ling Yan from the left and right, forming an isosceles triangle with Ling Yan. As long as he was in the triangle, he would be attacked by both of them. The combination of the two was flawless. Before Ling Yan could retreat, Gu Qingyu and Jiang Jingtian came from afar, closing in step by step. Boom! A spear broke through the shackles of heaven and earth. The power to break the world had been formed, stirring up a black hole. Jiang Jingtian followed the high-speed rotation of the spear and the black hole rolled toward Ling Yan. Then, Gu Qingyu, Xiaoye, Shirgu, Sky Sword Body, and Desolate Lord Yi came from all directions, not giving Ling Yan a chance. These 8 people were all top-notch swordsmen. They were ruthless. Once they attacked the body, even with the best defense, they would be heavily injured. Ling Yan was expressionless. He held the sword and rushed left and right. His speed was much faster than them. Although he couldn't escape the encirclement, every sword could send a swordsman flying. However, 3 to 5 swordsmen from the crazy sect quickly came from behind, not allowing him to escape. Tong Tong's small body was hiding in a corner. The originally innocent child had now become very wretched as he tiptoed towards Ling Yan. Ling Yan didn't know that Tong Tong was a child with heavy resentment, so he didn't think that he had an immortal body and didn't pay attention to him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Although Ling Yan was a military saint, his battle prowess was not to be underestimated. The fighting style he used was similar to that of the military, such as sending them flying, creating a diversion, throwing stones to test the waters, guerrilla warfare, borrowing the enemy's strength, and so on. In a short period of time, so many experts were unable to do anything to him. The surrounding mountains had been razed to the ground, and the sword chi had directly chopped off the thick tree trunks. There were many afterimages, and it was impossible to tell who was who. Boom! Jiang Jingtian exploded with power. The qilin possessed his body, and the veins on his arms bulged. His spear and Ling Yan clashed head-on, and the shockwaves produced by the two of them attacked the galaxy. The two of them flew back at the same time, but the shockwaves also swept away the other powerhouses. Whoosh! Tong Tong, who was hiding not far away, grinned and ran to the place where Ling Yan would definitely pass. His 5 claws were like wolf claws, and his 2 small canine teeth were shining brightly. Ling Yan could feel the sinister killing intent behind his back. His body twisted as he flew backward. His body was distorted and changed shape. He thrust his sword back. The sword light wreaked havoc. Even the sand and stones were shattered into fine powder. Puchit, the divine sword pierced through Tong Tong's chest. At this time, Ling Yan realized that the one he had hit was a child. He was momentarily stunned, but before he could think about it, Tong Tong's small hands grabbed and tore apart the divine clothes on his arms. His sharp claws pierced through Ling Yan's arms. Tong Tong opened his small mouth and bit Ling Yan's neck. Ling Yan was shocked. His big hand shook and actually shattered Tong Tong's body. However, in that flash, Tong Tong had bitten off a large piece of flesh from Ling Yan's neck. The bloody wound quickly turned black. The resentment and poison had contaminated Ling Yan, making him have no choice but to waste a lot of energy to control the wound. Boom! Gu Qingyu attacked from behind. The remaining sword chi swept Ling Yan. Although it did not injure him, it was enough to sweep him away. Boom! Whoosh! Ling Yan crashed into the side of the mountain, shattering the sand and stones. Sand and dust flew everywhere. He was battered and exhausted. Tong Tong took advantage of this time to reform his body. However, half of his vitality had been destroyed. His face was pale and he was vomiting blood. This kind of attack, 3 to 5 times would be enough to kill him. However, not only was Tong Tong not angry, he did not have any resentment. Instead, he grinned and laughed. Blood sprayed out, making him look especially terrifying. Yi Qinghan's eyes twitched. This guy was taught a little too much by the divine bird. He did not look like an expert at all. No matter how one looked at him, he was very wretched and evil. Yi Qinghan was worried that Tong Tong would go and cause both sides to suffer. He reached out and pressed Tong Tong down. He said in a deep voice, "Don't attack anymore. I'm fine. I can attack again." Tong Tong turned his head and replied seriously, "No. Don't worry and wait here." Yi Qinghan's voice was heavy as a heaven-piercing will suppressed Tong Tong. Tong Tong did not dare to show off anymore. He could only stand beside Yi Qinghan. Ling Yan noticed Tong Tong's strange behavior. His eyes were full of anger. Black blood was surging from his neck. It could not be healed in a short time. He could not help but be furious. However, to be able to become a military saint, he was not easy to deal with. He quickly calmed down. Desolate Lord doesn't dare to use Desolate God's power. Moreover, he doesn't have any experts behind him. As long as I defeat those 2 youths, I might be able to break through. Ling Yan dodged while thinking. He glanced at Yi Qinghan from the corner of his eyes. He was prepared to take a risk and bet that Yi Qinghan did not dare to attack. Xiao xiao xiao. Ling Yan's sword pierced through the clouds, sending out hundreds of sword images. Half of them attacked Desolate Lord Yi while the other half attacked the heavenly sword body. The 2 children were the strongest of the younger generation. They were also the most promising existences to break through to the pseudo-sector Lord realm. Boom! The heavenly sword body was born with the sword. The sword in his hand would automatically evolve along with his strength. Now that it was a paramount god weapon, its recovery ability was extremely strong. Therefore, he did not hesitate to take it head-on. The sword technique in his hand was extremely tyrannical and unyielding. It was also incomparably ethereal, just like a sword immortal. Desolate Lord Yi, on the other hand, was using a long blade. It was extremely tyrannical and had the aura of Yi Qinghan. The blade tore through space and attacked from the other side, wanting to force Ling Yan back. Ling Yan's move was extremely dangerous. His main sword clashed with the heavenly sword body, but it did not cause much damage. Instead, he borrowed the power of the heavenly sword body to attack Desolate Lord Yi. His power was like lightning, and his destructive power was extremely terrifying. Even lightning was triggered. When Yi Qinghan saw Ling Yan taking such a risk, he knew that Ling Yan wanted to break through from his side. His legs moved and stabilized. The strength of his entire body was gathered in his fist. The power of his bloodline was surging. Even if he did not use Desolate God's power, his perverted fleshly saint body could take someone's life with a single punch. Boom! Kacha! The long blade in Desolate Lord Ye's hand was cut in half. While he was shocked, his body fell back. A strand of sword chi that could destroy space and time attacked Yi Qinghan from his face. At the same time, Ling Yan stepped on Desolate Lord Ye's chest and rushed towards Yi Qinghan along with the sword chi. As long as Yi Qinghan dodged, he would be able to break out of the encirclement. However, Yi Qinghan did not dodge. Instead, he stretched out his left hand and, as fast as lightning, grabbed the heavenly sword. In that instant, his right fist smashed towards Ling Yan's head. Ling Yan had miscalculated. Yi Qinghan dared to attack, but he did not have the chance to regret. Bang! Yi Qinghan's fist landed on Ling Yan's temple. However, his left hand was directly cut off by Ling Yan's heavenly sword. Blood splattered across the valley. Chapter 1480. Boom! Buzz! Ling Yan was punched in the temple by Yi Qinghan. His head buzzed and he lost consciousness. He fell from the mountain peak to the ground. His powerful body broke a rock, and his head hit the ground hard. His head almost exploded. At that moment, Jiang Jingtian's spear broke the void and pierced through Ling Yan's chest, stabbing into the ground. Gu Qingyu's sword pierced through the clouds, piercing through Ling Yan's palm. Lin Wutian, sky sword body, Desolate Lord Yi, Xiaoye, and Li Feng pierced through Ling Yan's arms and legs. Ling Yan was too strong. If he was given a chance, he could turn the tables. With so many strong people suppressing Ling Yan, plus Yi Qinghan's punch, Ling Yan quickly woke up. His face was ferocious, and he struggled angrily, glaring at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan jumped down and punched Ling Yan's stomach. Ling Yan's body twitched, and his body was pushed under the rock. Puff! Ling Yan spat out a mouthful of essence blood, which turned into a blood sword and rushed into the sky. The light in his eyes began to fade, and he was extremely tired. He was indeed strong. With so many strong people and so many pseudo-world weapons, if he hadn't made a wrong bet, Yi Qinghan wouldn't have attacked, and he wouldn't have lost so badly. He might even have had a chance to escape. I can still attack without the power of the desolate god. Ling Yan, you didn't expect to die at my hands, did you? Yi Qinghan stared at Ling Yan. He didn't hate him because he was loyal to Xue Wudi. However, he had killing intent, and it was very firm because he had killed countless people of the wilderness, including Yan Ao. Wasteland Master, just kill me. Ling Yan dispiritedly stopped struggling. He couldn't even be bothered to struggle against Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan shook his head and squatted beside Ling Yan. He whispered, "Don't worry. Answer a few of my questions, and I won't humiliate you. I'll let you die with dignity." Ling Yan's mouth was bleeding. He lay on the ground, unable to move. His handsome face looked tired, as if he had been freed. "Ask away. I only hope that Desolate Lord can spare some of my Ling clan's children and leave behind a line of inheritance." Ling Yan closed his eyes and replied. His palm was pierced through, his chest was pierced through, and even his legs were nailed to the ground. Blood flowed like a river, and his life force was quickly dissipating. However, Ling Yan was an expert, one of the third row of experts on the pyramid. If Yi Qinghan was careless and allowed him to escape, he could still survive. Ling Yan's entire body was trembling. It was a piercing pain that came from his soul, not fear. Sure, one question is worth 10 lives. It's up to you whether you want to answer or not. Tell me, how did Yan Ao die? Who killed the dragon of resentment? Yi Qinghan's voice was gloomy and filled with sorrow. It was enough to make one's nose turn sour. When Ling Yan heard Yi Qinghan mention Yan Ao, his entire body twitched. He opened his eyes and stared at Yi Qinghan. The light in his eyes was scattered, as if he was recalling the events of the past. He was also a little sad. Perhaps it was because he recognized and respected heroes. In the entire era, he might not be convinced by the Seven Realms Lords, or even the Desolate Lord, but he admired Yan Ao. Because in terms of leading troops, only Yan Ao could suppress him. Even though he was the one who killed Yan Ao, it was a situation that was caused by the accumulation of human lives. He is a hero. He fought until there was not a single soldier left. He was killed by the combined efforts of my 10 great generals. He died a happy death. I definitely did not desecrate his corpse or spirit. Don't worry, Desolate Lord. Ling Yan said firmly. Where's his corpse? Yi Qinghan asked in a deep voice. I buried him in a mountain in the desolate wasteland. It's called the Loyal Monarch Mountain. I believe you should know this mountain. Ling Yan replied without hesitation. Many thanks. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed with a hint of emotion. To be able to go this far in a war between two armies that were mortal enemies, Ling Yan's breadth of mind was indeed admirable. Who killed the dragon of resentment? Who tore off his spine? Why is it in the hands of that lich? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Ling Yan was puzzled at first. After pondering for a long time, he murmured, From what I know, the dragon of resentment was killed by the divine martial saint. As for his spine, I don't know why it would appear in the hands of that lich. Yi Qinghan went silent. The valley was deathly silent. That huge wolf also didn't dare to move. It had been lying on the ground not far from Yi Qinghan. Ling Yan took the initiative and said, Continue asking. As long as I know, I will tell you everything. One question was worth 10 lives. Ling Yan also hoped that Yi Qinghan could ask a few more questions. He absolutely believed that other than the lives he had fought for, Yi Qinghan would definitely kill the entire Ling family. because the hatred was deeper than the sea and higher than the sky. In the 9 worlds, other than the Snow Country and the Divine Realm, are there any other great desolate prisons? Could it be that countless people of the great desolate wasteland were all killed by you? Yi Qinghan asked with a frown. When the great desolate prison was mentioned, Ling Yan's eyes flashed. He seemed to have thought of something. He struggled but couldn't sit up. He could only lie down and say, "How many lives is this question worth? How much do you think it's worth?" Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. "The lives of all the children under the age of 18 in my Ling family." Ling Yan said firmly. When a lion asked for an exorbitant price, there was naturally good news. Yi Qinghan wasn't afraid of Ling Yan asking for a price. He was afraid that he wouldn't ask. At this moment, he felt inexplicably relaxed. He nodded and said, aloud. Ling Yan finally revealed a smile and said, "Desolate Lord, maybe things aren't as bad as you think. Although there is only one great desolate prison, as the Realm Lord of the 7 Realms, you gave face to Jian Bugui and allowed him to take away the children of the great desolate wasteland. As for the exact number, I don't know." Ooh! Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Knowing this was enough. He didn't expect Jian Bugui to take away a group of children of the great desolate wasteland. This could be considered good news. Jian Bugui didn't tell him because he wanted to protect those people and didn't want them to participate in the war. "Thank you for providing me with this good news. Mr. Ling Yan, you can go down and accompany Yan Ao. Help me pass a message. I will let the Realm Lord of the 7 Realms go down and kowtow to him." Yi Qinghan grinned. His expression was cold and cruel to the extreme. His bones were filled with hatred and evil. Ling Yan looked at Yi Qinghan's outstretched hand. He wasn't afraid. Instead, he felt a sense of relief. He asked expectantly, "Desolate Lord, please bury me in Mount Zhongjuan. I can die without regrets." Alright. Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed Ling Yan's neck. With a clench of his iron hand, he broke Ling Yan's neck. A wave of destructive qi flowed from his throat to Ling Yan's soul and limbs. Ling Yan's face twisted. He struggled in pain for a while. The luster on his body disappeared. His corpse was stiff and his eyes were wide open. It was very terrifying. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and closed Ling Yan's eyes. He waved his hand and gave Ling Yan's sword to Lin Wudian. Then he put Ling Yan's corpse into the great wasteland steel. Deep in his heart, he also hoped that these 2 military saints would be buried together. If there really was a so-called destination for souls, a transcendent hell, he hoped that they would meet again. Chapter 1481. The moment Yi Qinghan killed Ling Yan, Xue Wudi, who was far away at the border of Great Wasteland Domain, sensed it. Ling Yan's life jade was not in the Ling family, but was carried by Xue Wudi. Xue Wudi took out Ling Yan's life jade. It was completely shattered, and he knew that Ling Yan had fallen. His face instantly turned ferocious, and he was incomparably furious. He crushed the life jade and his eyes were filled with flames. "Who killed Ling Yan?" Xue Wudi roared. Ling Yan was his right-hand man, equivalent to the 2nd Realm Lord of Snow Country's divine world. Ling Yan's death was equivalent to taking away half of his life. From now on, Snow Country's divine world would no longer be special. Instead, it would be the weakest because Snow Country's divine world's territory was the smallest after the primal chaos domain. Supreme Shenwu and the others' expressions suddenly changed. With Ling Yan's strength, other than a realm lord, who could kill him? Other than Great Wasteland Domain, who would choose to take the risk to kill Ling Yan and offend Xue Wudi? Ling Yan's death was beyond everyone's imagination, but it was inevitable. He ran into Kuang Sek's encirclement alone, and with so many older generation experts blocking his path, plus the prestige of the Desolate Lord, his confidence in victory was cut off. He only thought of running for his life. He would definitely lose if he lost, but he gambled wrongly. Yi Qinghan wouldn't make a move, and that became the last straw for his death. Can Desolate Peng kill Ling Yan? Revered Hierarch Wu Ji frowned and asked doubtfully. The 7 sector lords were very puzzled. That kind of absolute realm expert, Once he makes a move, he can instantly kill an expert of the same realm. No one knows who will win for sure. However, Ling Yan and Yan Ao are different. The two of them belong to the peak of the pyramid. Unless they are ambushed or surrounded, it is very hard to kill them. Everyone should prepare for the worst. If the Desolate Lord, he really came back. Shui Wudi took a deep breath. He felt a chill down his spine when he mentioned that name. He couldn't bear the thought of that transcendent existence returning to him. When the Desolate Lord was mentioned, everyone fell silent, including Zhu Wuxin and Ji Gu of the younger generation. They all felt powerless. That was a mighty and supreme world lord. Moreover, he was an existence that even the seven of them together feared. If such a person were to appear, who could contend against him? Impossible. That bastard can't be alive. With so many of us attacking, how could he still be alive? Night Demon King roared hysterically. His eyes were filled with fear and anger, as if he hated Yi Qinghan to the core. Damn sissy, even if that person is dead, Jian Bugui is not yours. Stop dreaming. Revered God Wuji looked at the Night Demon Deity King with disdain and mocked him coldly. You're the sissy. I'll kill you. Night Devil God King was burning with rage as he drew his sword and charged at revered God Wuji. His aura surged into the heavens as sword chi surged, shattering the sand and stones on the ground, not to mention the thorns and weeds. Boom! Whooshed up, the shockwaves crashed into the Star River, destroying everything in its path. The other sector lords were protecting the army outside, preventing the shockwaves from harming the innocent. They watched coldly as the two of them fought. The sword pierced through the great wilderness, creating a chasm that extended for hundreds of miles. The two furious sector lords' attacks were simply destructive. If it wasn't for the 5 sector lords working together to defend, who knew how much damage it would cause? The two of them fought for a long time, but their cultivations were about the same. They couldn't harm each other and had to stop. Shui Wudi looked coldly at the two of them and said with disdain, "You're still fighting amongst yourselves. If the Desolate Lord really returns, we'll all die. Don't scare me. I'm also a sector lord. No matter how strong Desolate is, he can't kill me instantly." Night Devil God King roared hysterically. The more fearful he was, the angrier he got. It was as if his angry roar could reduce the fear in his heart. Dark clouds covered the sky at the border of the great wilderness. The sky was pressing down and raging winds were wreaking havoc. It explained the hearts of the overlords. It was just a person's name, and it wasn't confirmed yet. Other than the Desolate Warlord, no one else could do it. Supreme Shenwu took a deep breath. Right now, he was one of the most nervous people. He had killed a lot of experts from the great wilderness, especially the resentful dragon. He was one of the best brothers of the great wilderness war master. If the resentful dragon came back, he would definitely come looking for Supreme Shenwu. Ling Yan killed Yan Ao. Therefore Ling Yan was dead. Ji Ji's emotions were complicated. Only the higher-ups knew what caused the war in the great wilderness. It wasn't like what was explained on the surface. The great wilderness wanted to destroy the 9 worlds and dominate the 9 worlds. If the Desolate Warlord really returned to take revenge, he couldn't say anything. The debt he owed would be fatal sooner or later. Let's go deeper and see if we can find any clues. Regardless of whether the Desolate Lord killed Ling Yan or not, we have to find out. If it's really him, it means that his cultivation is close to the Sector Lord level. However, he didn't come out to take revenge. This also means that his strength isn't as strong as us. Let's kill him in the cradle and not let him appear again. Supreme Divine Marshal said in a deep voice. Let's go. This time, no one objected. The army started a carpet search. The 7 sector lords joined hands and rushed into the depths of the great wilderness. Dark clouds rolled across the sky. Raging winds blew dust everywhere. The roars of the desolate beasts resounded through the mountains and rivers. The great wilderness domain was in chaos again. Powerful desolate beasts began to flee towards the depths. The great wilderness domain was too big. Even if a sector lord wanted to search the entire domain, he would have to waste a few years, let alone an army. At this moment, the start-whining vine had turned into a green ball and was rolling into the distance. Its speed wasn't slow at all. The heaven-desolate beast spread its wings and flew high. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. 10 days later, the 7 sector lords appeared outside the vast lake in the depths. With a leap, they entered the depths of the continent. The sector lords scanned the depths with their divine senses and quickly found the village of the great wilderness survivors. There were many traces of people moving around the periphery. However, it was empty. It was obvious that they had escaped. The entire village has escaped. However, there are no traces of them. This can only mean one thing. They have a large-scale spatial artifact that can carry life. There aren't many of these things. The Great Wilderness Monument is one of them. Other than the Desolate Lord, no one else can move the Great Wilderness Monument. Really came back. Supreme Divine Marshal's forehead was covered in cold sweat as he said in a low voice. Hiss hiss hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with anger and panic. He has already been crushed. His soul has been sent to hell and forcefully suppressed. How can he still appear? At this moment, Hierarch Wuji was also anxious. His face was filled with disbelief. What's the point of saying all this now? Chase after him. Kill him without mercy. Shui Wudi said anxiously. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the great wilderness. To the east was the void ocean. To the west was the western desert impasse. Both places were vast and boundless. Even if they knew which direction Yi Qinghan had escaped in, they might not be able to find him. We will split into 2. One will go to the western desert impasse and the other will go to the void ocean. Everyone make your choice. Shui Wudi said immediately. Chapter 1482. In the western desert impasse, Yi Qinghan dismissed 10 peerless master pros from the crazy sect. Lin Wuken, Gu Qingyu, Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, Shigu, Xianyan Xue, Mu Zhuang, the celestial sword body, Desolate Lord Yi, and Xia Ziluo. These 10 were the strongest and most trustworthy. They were scattered around Yi Qinghan within 10,000 li to 100,000 li. Their goal was to take the Great Wasteland's steel away after Yi Qinghan died. The others returned to the Great Wasteland's steel and were led by Yi Qinghan deeper into the steel. In the western desert forest, terrifying beasts appeared from time to time, smashing mountains and rivers as they attacked human experts. Clearly, Yi Qinghan's group wasn't the only one here. There were many powerful adventurers who had never appeared before, but they were still here. The weakest of them was a peak paramount god. Although there weren't many of them, their battle prowess was terrifying. Most of them were from the 7 realms, and some were even natives. They were born and raised in the western desert and didn't care about the outside world. Yi Qinghan quietly moved forward, judging by their clothing. As long as they were from the 7 realms, he would ambush and kill them. If they were too strong, he would quietly retreat. The danger was so great that it was hard to breathe. Even the experts of the western desert could feel an indescribable aura enveloping the western desert, as if something big was about to happen. Outside the western desert, in the great wastelands, revered god Wuji, Shui Wudi, and the 6 demons and devil sovereigns, 3 sector lords, headed towards the western desert forest while the remaining 4 sector lords headed towards the void ocean in the east. No one knew where Yi Qinghan had gone. At the same time, in the distant ocean of nothingness, Yi Qinghan was being carried away by his elite guards. They were desperately trying to escape from the sea dragon weave, but they were getting further and further away from the great wastelands. They had already reached the territory of the heaven-protecting Qilin in the north. No one had ever seen a heaven-protecting Qilin before. Not even its bloodline had appeared. Many people doubted its existence. When Yi Qinghan stepped into the northern frontier sea, he took a deep breath. He knew that he had dodged a calamity this time. He could now cultivate in peace and recover from his injuries. Xian, find a deserted island where we can stay. I urgently need to rest. Yi Qinghan's face was a little pale. His heart was beating very abnormally, as if he had sensed something. The main body and avatar were too far apart. Yi Qinghan could not sense what was happening to the main body, but he could foresee that something was wrong. Otherwise, his heart would not be beating so fast. The elite guard turned to look at Yi Qinghan's pale face and pulled Yi Qinghan along. Their figures flashed and teleported 10,000 miles away. Their divine senses spread out to search for the island. The northern sea region was extremely vast, but there were very few islands. Although this place was close to the sea, it was still very far from the polar regions. The creatures here were still quite docile, and very few of them would take the initiative to pounce on the two people in the sky. Screech! The elite guard transformed into an elite divine bird. He spread his wings and soared high. His eyes were sharp as he looked around. The light in his eyes was especially sharp as he searched for prey. Yi Qinghan sat on the back of the elite divine bird. His eyes shone brightly. After searching for an entire day, he finally found an island suitable for humans to live on. It was not very big, about 200 meters in radius. There were a few ancient trees on it that covered the sky. It was a natural house. Seabirds landed on the ancient trees and built nests one after another. Whooshed at the elite guard swooped down and transformed back into a human before landing. He brought Yi Qinghan to the ground. "Father, wait a moment. I will help you build a house." The elite guard hurriedly rushed into the forest and looked at the thick ancient trees. They were about 10 feet in diameter. There was an ancient tree that actually had a tree hole. It looked natural. It was pitch black inside and nothing could be seen. There should be creatures inside. Yi Qinghan was very experienced in surviving in the wild. He saw the tree hole in one glance. He flicked his finger and a wisp of flame rushed into the tree hole. Right after a miserable shriek, a huge python crawled out of the huge hole in the tree. It had a golden head and silver-white scales. It was at least 30 meters long and thicker than a bucket. Its abdomen began to crack, as if it was about to grow claws. It was likely that it would soon transform into a dragon. The angry giant python stared at Yi Qinghan and the elite guard. However, it had cultivated to such a level and was very intelligent. It knew that it was not a match for the elite guard. However, it did not retreat. It opened its bloody mouth and kept closing in on the two of them, indicating that this was its territory. Yi Qinghan stared at the giant python. His aura kept increasing. He borrowed the power of the world and waved his hand to control the void ocean nearby. Huge waves rushed to the sky, wanting to swallow the island. His aura shot up to the clouds. Under the influence of his aura, his stalwart body became like a king descending to the world. It was extremely terrifying. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice, "I am only staying here temporarily. I will leave after healing. If you want to transform into a dragon in peace, you better behave. Otherwise, I will take you in." Hiss hiss hiss. The giant python looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. It gradually retreated into the inner part of the island, not daring to resist. Yi Qinghan knew how to make do. He did not even care about the giant python. After all, he had the elite guard by his side. He directly sat cross-legged under the tree and cultivated. At this moment, the 4 supreme masters had already appeared in the void ocean. They knew that the sea race's continent was within the sea dragon weave. Their goal was clear. The 4 of them flew through the sky and the sea, traveling through the void ocean. It took them 3 whole months to reach the periphery of the sea race's continent. Divine Lord Jing'an directly grabbed a shape-shifting expert and forcefully ordered, "Speak. Have there been any human experts here recently?" Recently, Yi Qinghan's matter had caused an uproar. He had offended the 9 supreme masters of the sea race. Who did not know about this? That shape-shifting expert did not dare to go against the supreme master's will. He hurriedly explained the matter. The eyes of the 4 supreme masters lit up. According to what this shape-shifting expert said, that human expert was indeed terrifying. It was possible that he was the person they were looking for. Divine Lord Jingtian forcefully devoured the shape-shifting expert's memories. He knew that Yi Qinghan had fled towards the north. He exchanged glances with the other experts and said, "Let's go. We'll talk after we find that human." It was just a coincidence. They wanted to find the main body, but they found the location of the clone first. Shio that the 4 supreme masters rushed towards the north. At this moment, the 9 supreme masters of the sea race were gathering all their forces to hunt down Yi Qinghan. They all wanted to take back the Dragon Ball. The Dragon Ball was extremely important to their race's evolution. No one wanted to give it up. Deep-sea crazed shark led a large group of experts through the fog ocean. The fur seal had obviously betrayed Yi Qinghan. In its eyes, there was no such thing as brotherly love. If not for the fact that it was worried that Yi Qinghan would be injured, it would have already killed him and devoured his blood essence. Less than half a year after the 9 Supreme Masters left, the 4 Supreme Masters appeared in the fog ocean. The fur seal discovered that the 4 Supreme Masters were all at the Realm Master level. It could not resist them and did not even dare to release the fog. It cursed in the depths of the ocean. Damn, why are there so many experts recently? The fog ocean was a place where one could enter but not leave. But now, this rule had been broken. One after another, experts were ignoring the fog ocean. North of the Sea Dragon Weave was the sky-protecting Qilin Weave. Although this was how it was divided, very few members of the sea race paid attention to it. This was because the sky-protecting Qilin had never appeared before. Even the sea race themselves suspected that such creatures did not exist. Deep-sea crazed shark and the other 8 Supreme Masters looked at each other and rushed towards the northern region without hesitation. Huge waves surged, rolling and surging. However, before they could chase for long, the 4 Supreme Masters had already appeared above them. They blocked their path and stared at each other coldly. Although Shark Crazed was arrogant, he did not dare to be arrogant in front of a Realm Master. After all, those were heavenly beasts. Greetings, Lord Supreme Masters. Shark Crazed immediately bowed and turned back into his human form. His cold face was now very docile. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.